Chapter 99. Prince Yan, I will pave the way for you. Qinglong immediately shouted. Rosefinch and Xuanwu looked at each other, their eyes filled with curiosity. Both of them could feel the change in everyone's attitude towards Yan Chuan. The saintess was much friendlier to Yan Chuan, and Qinglong was extremely respectful to Yan Chuan. White Tiger saw that the two of them were puzzled and immediately shouted, Prince Yan saved Big Brother's life in the cage. You should be more polite to Prince Yan. Oh. The two of them looked serious. Then they bowed respectfully to Yan Chuan. The four of them were as close as brothers. Although they did not know how Yan Chuan saved Qinglong, since White Tiger said so, it was a fact. The saving grace made the two of them feel grateful to Yan Chuan. Along the way, the army crossed mountains and rivers. With the four experts opening the way, the obstacles in the mountain path could be instantly removed, and the river could be instantly frozen. The army of 3,000 quickly arrived near Yangzigu. On the mountain peak, Yangzigu and Ding Wugu looked coldly at the approaching army. 3,000 soldiers, not a single one died? Ding Wugu said with a gloomy face. Indeed, not a single one died. Yangzigu raised his eyebrows. Young Master Yang can imagine, if not for Yan Chuan's deliberate design, why would we choose to enter the Yang Gate? Yan Chuan must have deliberately framed us. Otherwise, with so many mortals, how could nothing happen to them? Ding Wugu said with hatred. Indeed, after entering the Yang Gate, I almost lost my life once. Yangzigu said with a gloomy face. So, I asked young Master Yang to support me later. Ding Wugu said again. Okay. Yangzigu nodded. At this moment, Yan Chuan's army slowly approached them from afar. The army stopped, and Mo Yushi raised her head to look at Yangzigu and Ding Wugu. Yan Chuan. Ding Wugu suddenly shouted. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes and looked at Ding Wugu. All the soldiers looked at Ding Wugu, their eyes filled with ruthlessness. It turns out to be Feng Shui Master Ding. What? Are you missing an eye? Do you need to stand so high to see me? Yan Chuan said coldly. As the primary soul of the First Legion, Yan Chuan had a grudge with Ding Wugu. Naturally, he would not be polite. Humph. A mere mortal dog blinded me and tricked me into entering the chaos array. It deserves to die. Ding Wugu said coldly. Ding Wugu. Mo Yushi's eyes widened. Qinglong and White Tiger both glared at Ding Wugu. Yushi, this is a personal grudge between Ding Wugu and Yan Chuan. You don't have to worry about it. Yangzigu said with a smile. Mortal dog? Ha! You're talking about yourself. Yan Chuan's eyes were filled with killing intent. Ding Wugu, are you crazy? Also Yangzigu, why are you shouting? Mo Yushi said unhappily. Yan Chuan, if you have the ability, don't hide behind a woman. I'll allow you to have an army of 3,000 to settle this grudge with me. How about it? Ding Wugu shouted again. Bastard! Mo Yushi glared. At this moment, Yan Chuan suddenly waved his hand and stopped Mo Yushi. Miss Mo, calm down. Yan Chuan said with a smile. After laughing, Yan Chuan turned to Ding Wugu and said, So, you want to challenge me? That's right. Do you have the guts? Ding Wugu said coldly. Ding Wugu, you're in the essence realm. How dare you challenge someone in the strength realm? Qinglong scolded. Humph. Ding Wugu snorted coldly. Mo Yushi naturally wanted to stop him. However, before she could say anything, Yan Chuan spoke first. Miss Mo, since Ding Wugu wants to challenge me, then please be my witness. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Chapter 100. Mo Yushi's expression became complicated. But when she thought of Yan Chuan's miraculous performance, her expression softened. Finally, she nodded and said, Since you want to, then fine. Xiu. On the mountain, Ding Wugu and Yang Zhizhou quickly descended the mountain and approached. Yushi, they have a personal grudge. You and I shouldn't interfere. Yangzigu smiled and walked over. Yes, Saintess. Although I am in the essence realm, Yan Chuan also has 3,000 soldiers. Let's have a fair fight. No one should interfere. Ding Wugu said. Looking at Ding Wugu, Mo Yushi sneered. Fine, I won't interfere. No one is allowed to interfere. Mo Yushi said. Yes, no one is allowed to interfere. Yangzigu thought that Mo Yushi was giving him face and laughed. Prince Yan, be careful. Mo Yushi said to Yan Chuan worriedly. Yin Chuan nodded. Yang Ziga saw Mo Yushi's expression and frowned, but soon he relaxed. He thought that he was overthinking. Yin Chuan, come. Let's go to the open area. Ding Wugu pointed at the valley and quickly walked over. Soon he stopped in the middle of the valley. Yin Chuan smiled faintly and walked over. The 3,000 soldiers followed closely behind. However, after walking for a while, Yin Chuan's footsteps suddenly came to a halt. Yang Zigu and Ding Wugu's eyes narrowed. Yin Chuan happened to step on the edge of the ground. He found out. Yang Zigu muttered. What did he find out? Mo Yushi asked. No, nothing. Yang Zigu immediately denied. With Yin Chuan's past experience, how could he not feel that the soil on the ground was unusual? However, Yin Chuan did not say it out loud. Instead, he squatted down and tightened his shoelaces. Phew! Yang Zigu and Ding Wugu both let out a sigh of relief. Ferocious tiger army formation. Yin Chuan shouted. Roar! The 3,000 soldiers roared in unison. Immediately, they assumed the military formation posture that they had rehearsed a few days ago. Mortal dogs are mortal dogs. No matter how many there are, they are still trash. Ding Wugu sneered. As he spoke, Ding Wugu once again took out a small black ball from his sleeve. He threw it with all his might. Pung! The small ball exploded, instantly forming billowing black gas that enveloped Ding Wugu. Look, how many of you will die this time? Ding Wugu laughed evilly. Just like several months ago, Ding Wugu used the same move. With a wave of his hand, 100 streaks of poison gas shot towards the 3,000 soldiers. In the past, it was this move that had killed Yin Chuan's generals. Tigers roar in the forest. Yin Chuan shouted. The military formation changed. The 3,000 soldiers immediately activated their blood and qi. Red light gushed out from their bodies. The light broke free from the military formation and instantly condensed into the shape of a blood-red tiger. Roar! 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 The 3,000 soldiers roared in unison. The blood-red tiger suddenly opened its mouth and roared at the 100 streaks of black gas. Roar! The blood-red tiger roared. Instantly, it formed a shockwave that went straight for the 100 streaks of poison gas. Pung! The 100 streaks of poison gas were knocked back and rushed towards Ding Wugu. Rumble! Ding Wugu's surroundings seemed to be blown by a strong wind. The black gas that protected Ding Wugu shook violently. Although Ding Wugu was unharmed, his eyes were filled with surprise. The power of the Essence Realm? Ding Wugu said in surprise. A Strength Realm mortal can also activate the power of the Essence Realm when setting up a military formation? Tigers roar in the forest? Yang Zigu raised his eyebrows. Good. Qinglong laughed excitedly. Mo Yushi also secretly sighed. Her eyes revealed a trace of relief. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. The 3,000 soldiers roared excitedly. The mysterious power of the Essence Realm. The 3,000 soldiers never thought that their military formation would be able to activate the power of the Essence Realm. At this moment, they admired Yin Chuan even more. They also paid more attention to the fierce tiger army formation that they had practiced for the past 2 months. According to the military formation, the 3,000 soldiers slowly walked towards the valley. The blood-red tiger image of the soldiers enveloped the 3,000 soldiers and also approached the valley step by step. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Tiger's ferocious might. Chapter 101. Tiger descends the mountain. Ferocious tiger. As the 3,000-strong army stepped forward, the ferocious tiger condensed from blood also stepped forward slowly, staring fiercely at Ding Wugu. The power of the military formation can actually produce such an effect. Looks like we don't have to worry about Prince Yan's safety. Qinglong exhaled deeply. Yang Ziga listened to Qinglong's words and frowned slightly. After all, Ding Wugu was also in the Essence Realm. If the 3,000-strong army could produce the power of the Essence Realm, Ding Wugu might not be able to win. Yang Ziga wasn't too worried after all. Ding Wugu still had his own backup plan. Snake Cave. A huge snake cave. At this moment, the 3,000-strong army slowly stepped into the snake cave that was covered by grass and air walls. Ding Wugu, Yin Chuan and the 3,000-strong army all stood on top of the snake cave. As if they didn't feel anything. They were still opposing each other. Ordinary dogs can also set up a formation? Amazing, but you will still die. Ding Wugu laughed sinisterly. Vicious and vicious, you are also a kind of talent, but unfortunately, you killed my soldiers. This enmity is set. I have no reason to spare you. Yin Chuan said indifferently. Spare me? Humph, your broken formation, once I charge in, it will scatter with just them? Ordinary dogs are ordinary dogs. You can't hurt a single hair of mine. Ding Wugu said disdainfully. A single hair? Weren't your eyes blinded? Yin Chuan laughed. Humph. Ding Wugu snorted in anger. While snorting, Ding Wugu took out another black ball. He chanted a strange incantation, and the black ball in his hand suddenly trembled. Ding Wugu's eyes focused and he pushed the black ball. Bang! The black ball suddenly exploded and turned into a black fog with a diameter of 30 feet. In the black fog, there seemed to be countless skulls churning non-stop. The skulls flashed with a faint green light, and the countless skulls let out ghostly wails and howls. Ahahaha! Woo 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 woo! Tiki! 10,000 ghosts, heed my command. Eat eat eat! Ding Wugu formed a seal in his hand, controlling the black fog of 10,000 ghosts. The black fog of 10,000 ghosts descended from the sky and pounced on the army of 3,000. Boom! The black fog of 10,000 ghosts collided with the blood fiend tiger. The blood fiend was like a great tonic. Amidst the black fog of ghosts, the skulls excitedly gnawed on it. Ahahaha! Tens of thousands of ghosts faced him head-on, gnawing at the ferocious tiger. The scene was oppressive, as if they would bite him in the next moment. If they had not followed Yin Chuan for a period of time, the 3,000 soldiers would have been scared silly. But even though they had seen so much, there were still several dozen people who were terrified. The moment they felt fear, the ferocious tiger army formation had a flaw. What's there to fear from a mere evil spirit? Change formation, tiger body jolt. Yin Chuan shouted. Yin Chuan's voice was filled with a sense of inviolability. When they heard it, they immediately felt a sense of determination. The previously fearful soldiers immediately calmed down. Moving quickly, the military formation changed. Blood chi poured into the spear and pierced it into the sky. Roar! The 3,000 soldiers roared, and it was like the roar of the blood fiend tiger. As the blood fiend tiger roared, its body shook violently. Instantly, some of the black fog around it was scattered. The thousands of skulls that were staring at the tiger and gnawing on its blood chi were also shaken and scattered in all directions. Boom! The black fog of 10,000 ghosts was forced back. The military formation once again blocked the attack. The confidence of the 3,000 soldiers instantly increased. The cultivation of the 3,000 soldiers could not compare to the Essence Realm Xiuzha, but they may have killed more people than the Essence Realm Xiuzha. When the Blood Fiend was activated, the ferocious tiger became even more bloodthirsty. Chapter 102. The tiger stared at the skulls around it. Its eyes were filled with viciousness. Ingos Fog? The lowest level magical item in Feng Shui. It is indeed worthy of the worst Feng Shui master. Yin Chuan said disdainfully. Who do you think is the worst Feng Shui master? Ding Wugu was already furious when he saw that the black fog did not work. After being mocked by Yin Chuan, he became even more furious. Even mortals can't do anything. Who do you think is the worst Feng Shui master? Yin Chuan continued to provoke him. You! A Feng Shui master like you is a disgrace to all Feng Shui masters. I think you should tie your hands and beg for death. Bastard! Ding Wugu charged over angrily. Seeing that Ding Wugu had lost his mind, Yin Chuan's eyes became brighter. This was the effect he wanted. Once he lost his mind, it was easy to make mistakes. Ding Wugu charged over. As his hand seals changed, the black fog suddenly surrounded Ding Wugu and enveloped him. Man and fog is one. When the man and fog became one, the black fog suddenly expanded by more than 3 times. Yin Chuan die. Ding Wugu's angry roar came from the black fog. Suddenly, a ghastly white skeletal claw with a diameter of 10 feet shot out from the black fog and clawed at Yin Chuan. The skeleton claw was surrounded by a large number of skulls. Ghost energy filled the sky and it was very powerful. Tiger Chi gathering. Yin Chuan shouted. Yes. The 3,000 soldiers shouted. Their bodies moved slightly, and with the help of the military formation, They poured their blood energy into Yin Chuan. From the outside, it looked like a huge blood tiger had suddenly charged into Yin Chuan's body. Heavenly Dragon Force. Yin Chuan punched out. Roar! The blood energy of the 3,000 soldiers, under the guidance of Yin Chuan's fist intent, turned into a bloody fist that was 6 meters long and fiercely smashed at the skeleton claw. Hong! The claw and fist collided. The huge impact scattered Ding Wugu's black fog. Dong 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 dong. A series of footsteps could be heard. When the black fog dispersed, Ding Wugu's figure was forced to retreat uncontrollably. Boom! Ding Wugu steadied himself after he was nearly 20 feet away. However, at this moment, Ding Wugu's mouth was overflowing with blood and his clothes were torn. He looked at Yin Chuan's group in disbelief. Yin Chuan's face was slightly pale, but the fighting spirit in his eyes was even stronger. The sleeve of his right arm, which he had used to punch, had been completely shattered, revealing his powerful arm. Not far away, Yang Zigu looked at this scene in shock. Impossible. Yin Chuan is only in the strength state. How could he defeat Ding Wugu? Yang Zigu's eyes widened in disbelief. Prince Yen borrowed the power of the 3,000 soldiers' blood and qi. That punch already has the power of the essence realm. Qinglong said excitedly. Military formation? Formations can actually be used like this? Mou, she said thoughtfully. Prince Yen will definitely win. White Tiger said excitedly. Not necessarily. Yang Zigu's eyes were filled with murderous intent. On the other side, Ding Wugu stood up slowly and wiped the corner of his mouth gently. He said with a vicious face, "That's all you got? Stop pretending. My punch will definitely hurt your internal organs. If you continue to pretend, you will only get more hurt." Yin Chuan said disdainfully. Puff! Ding Wugu could no longer hold back and spat out a mouthful of black blood. After spitting out the black blood, Ding Wugu's face turned pale and his body went limp. You're only in the strength state. How can you? Ding Wugu said unwillingly. You don't need to know. You shouldn't have provoked me. Chapter 103. Archers. Yin Chuan shouted. Bung! 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 The soldiers quickly drew their bows and aimed at the heavily injured Ding Wugu. Gagagagaga! Ding Wugu spat out black blood as he laughed viciously. Provoke you? I killed 2 of your subordinates, so what? They are just ordinary dogs. If I want to kill them, I will kill them. To die by my hands is your honor. You think you have one? Today none of you will live. Receive my gift. Ding Wugu said hatefully. Fire! Pung! Ding Wugu smashed another black ball. Large amounts of black gas surrounded Ding Wugu. Xiao! 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 The rain of arrows was like that day. They once again smashed into the black gas surrounding Ding Wugu, causing the black gas to tremble. But they were unable to harm Ding Wugu. Within the black gas, Ding Wugu had a cold smile in his eyes. He smashed his palm against the ground. Boom! The sound of ice shattering could be heard. The ground of the battlefield suddenly shook. Ding Wugu forced himself to endure. He stepped forward wanting to flee. The 3,000 soldiers felt the ground beneath their feet shake. They immediately wanted to investigate. Don't worry about that. Fire! Yin Chuan shouted. Yes. The 3,000 soldiers replied. Xiao! 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 Another rain of arrows flew forward. Although the heavily injured Ding Wugu was protected by the black gas, the impact of the rain of arrows still caused Ding Wugu to shift his position. He crashed into a large rock. Ding Wugu's face changed. Continue to fire. Yin Chuan shouted again. Xiao! Xiao! The rain of arrows did not stop. They viciously smashed into the black gas surrounding Ding Wugu. Like nails, they nailed Ding Wugu to the large rock. Stop! Ding Wugu shouted. But why would Yin Chuan listen to him? Pung! 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 On the ground, a large number of poisonous snakes suddenly appeared. The poisonous snakes were of different colors and were extremely bright. Clearly, their venom was extremely strong. Snake? Snake! Some soldiers were shocked. Continue to fire. Yin Chuan shouted. Yes. The soldiers shot arrows again. One arrow after another crashed into the black fog, preventing Ding Wugu from moving. No, stop, Jiaohu Ding Wugu said. Because at this moment, there were already over 1,000 snakes surrounding Ding Wugu. Although some were buried under the rain of arrows, there were still a large number of poisonous snakes slithering towards Ding Wugu through the rain of arrows. Hiss! All around were the hissing noises of poisonous snakes. The gloomy and cold penetrated the black gas, pressing towards Ding Wugu. Impossible, why don't you have any snakes? Ding Wugu looked in disbelief at the feet of Yan Chuan and the 3,000 soldiers. Logically speaking, Yan Chuan and the 3,000 soldiers were also standing in the vicinity of the snake cave. After Ding Wugu broke the qi wall on the ground, the venomous snakes should be everywhere. But now, there were more and more venomous snakes around Ding Wugu, while Yan Chuan did not have a single venomous snake. This isn't right, this isn't right. Yang Zigu exclaimed in surprise. Yang Zigu naturally knew about the qi wall set up by Yang Zigu, but where were the snakes? Where were the venomous snakes under Yan Chuan's feet? Snakes? Ha! Yan Chuan laughed disdainfully. Yan Chuan's cultivation technique, heavenly dragon power, was created in his previous life, so it naturally contained the might of the heavenly dragon. When snakes sensed the Snake King, they would flee in fear. Not to mention the might of the heavenly dragon. When Yan Chuan discovered the abnormality under his feet, he released his dragon might. Once the dragon might was released, the venomous snakes under the qi wall all fled, chasing towards Ding Wugu. Therefore, Yan Chuan did not have a single venomous snake around him, while Ding Wugu faced even more venomous snakes than before. Hiss! A small green snake suddenly broke through the black gas and coiled around Ding Wugu's arm. The snake bit down. Ah! Ding Wugu screamed. Chapter 104. Ah! Ding Wugu screamed. Bang! The green snake was shattered by Ding Wugu. However, the snake venom entered his body. Ding Wugu controlled the black gas around his body to block the rain of arrows, so he was unable to force out the snake venom with his full strength. Coupled with the fact that he was injured, Ding Wugu's face turned green in an instant. Shoot! Yan Chuan shouted. Yes, the group of soldiers replied. It was Ding Wugu who had wantonly killed his brothers. Now he could finally take revenge. The soldiers were filled with hatred as they drew their bows and arrows to the maximum. He showed no mercy. They kept shooting. Yan Chuan didn't do it himself. At this moment, the opportunity to kill Ding Wugu was given to his subordinates. Although the compromise with Ding Wugu that day had basically faded in the hearts of the soldiers, there was still a trace of shadow. As a commander-in-chief, he had to give his soldiers absolute strength and confidence. Not a single shadow could be left behind. Otherwise, it would become a huge problem in the future. Yan Chuan was instilling in the hearts of the soldiers that as long as they followed him, they would not suffer any grievances. Shooting down the enemy was a way for the soldiers to vent their frustrations. After venting their frustrations, they would become even more loyal. Whoosh! Whoosh! There were too many snakes and too little meat. Even though a large number of arrows slid past, the venomous snakes continued to advance. In the blink of an eye, Ding Wugu was surrounded by thousands of poisonous snakes. Ka! 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 One by one, the poisonous snakes broke through the black gas and bit Ding Wugu's body. Ah! Ding Wugu screamed. Young Master Yang, save me! Ding Wugu shouted. In the distance, Yang Zigu's expression changed, and he was about to rush over. Who? Emoyushi suddenly blocked in front of Yang Zigu. Didn't you say it already? This is their personal grudge. It's best that we don't interfere. Emoyushi smiled. Ding Wugu fell for Yan Chuan's evil scheme. He's going to die. Yang Zigu said anxiously. What evil scheme? His skills were inferior, so he was just courting death. Qing Long said disdainfully from the side. Saintis, save me. I'm here to help you, Saintis. Ding Wugu called out to Emoyushi. Help me? Before coming here, I took good care of you, but are you really helping me? Emoyushi said coldly. Ding Wugu's face gradually darkened. No, you can't kill me. Mohina Dojin sent me to help you. If I die, you won't be able to answer to Mohina Dojin. Ding Wugu shouted. Mohina Dojin? There's no need for you to worry about it. You invited me to witness your life and death battle. If you go back on your words, I won't be like you. Emoyushi said in a low voice. Ding Wugu, who do you think you are? You're just a half-baked feng shui master. How dare you threaten the saintess? Qinglong scolded. Young Master Yang, save me. I can help you. I can help you. Ding Wugu shouted at Yang Zigu. You she. Yang Zigu looked at Mo Yushi awkwardly. Yang Zigu, you're Mohina Dojin's son. When you're outside, you represent Mohina Dojin. You won't go back on your words and make Mohina Dojin lose trust in the world, right? Mo Yushi stared at Yang Zigu. Yang Zigu frowned and stared at Mo Yushi for a while. Finally, his brows relaxed and his expression became cheerful. How could I? Ding Wugu asked for it. He can't blame anyone. Mo Yushi nodded in satisfaction. In the distance, Ding Wugu was instantly betrayed by everyone and showed a look of despair. No, it shouldn't be like this, no. Ding Wugu spat out poisonous blood and screamed at the top of his lungs. Chapter 105. Whoosh! Suddenly, a white light came from afar and flew into the valley. The white light was confused. While he was confused, the white light shot towards Ding Wugu. Mr. Monroe, save me, save me. Ding Wugu shouted in joy. Qinglong. Mo Yushi shouted. Whoosh! The azure dragon instantly soared into the sky, blocking the white light in the blink of an eye. The white light stopped. It was Mr. Wenrua in white. Qinglong, what are you doing? Why are you not helping? Mr. Monroe frowned. Mr. Monroe, I respect you, but please don't interfere. Qinglong shook his head. Mr. Monroe, save me, save me. Ding Wugu shouted weakly. Mr. Monroe frowned and looked in Mo Yushi's direction. Mr. Monroe, please don't interfere. Mo Yushi shook her head. Saintess, please don't. I have found the Million Wonders demonic lotus, but I can't get it. We need a feng shui master. Mr. Monroe shook his head. You found the Million Wonders demonic lotus? Mo Yushi's expression changed. Yes, it's over there. I can see it, but there's a big shield outside and I can't get in. A feng shui master should have a way. Please let Ding Wugu go for now. Mr. Monroe said anxiously. Yes, save me, I can help you get the Million Wonders demonic lotus. Ding Wugu said anxiously as if he had found a life-saving straw. Whoosh! At this moment, a golden arrow suddenly pierced through the black chi and instantly shot into Ding Wugu's chest. Beep! The arrow pierced through his heart and the tail of the arrow shook violently. Ding Wugu's eyes widened. Bang! The black smoke around him dissipated. Hiss! A large number of poisonous snakes wrapped around Ding Wugu. Ding Wugu followed the direction of the arrow and looked into the distance. You! Ding Wugu pointed unwillingly at the archer in the distance. In the distance, the one shooting the arrow was Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan drew his bow and stood there coldly. An arrow pierced through his heart. Originally, Yan Chuan wanted the soldiers to shoot Ding Wugu slowly. However, when he saw Mr. Monroe arrive, he knew that if he delayed any longer, Ding Wugu might not die. He had no choice but to act. Today, in order to establish his might, in order to receive loyalty, and even more in order to resolve a death grudge, Ding Wugu must die. He infused the heavenly dragon's power into the arrow, and killed it with a single arrow. Yan Chuan. Mr. Monroe's expression changed. Anger flashed in his eyes. Yan Chuan returned the longbow to Huguang and raised his head. Most feng shui arrays contain a heavenly lake. As you said, the myriad profundity lotus must be sealed there. It's just a heavenly lake. There's no need for Ding Wugu. I can take you there. You? In the distance, Yang Zhizhou said unhappily. Why? You don't believe me? Yan Chuan smiled. I believe you. Mo Yushi immediately shouted. When she looked at Yan Chuan again, Mo Yushi's eyes suddenly had a sense of trust. An inexplicable sense of trust. Mo Yushi also had a feeling that Yan Chuan would definitely help her. Mr. Monroe looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression. Then he looked at Ding Wugu's corpse, which was being eaten by thousands of snakes. In the end, he could only nod and sigh. Then I'll have to trouble Prince Yan. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly. Since I'm your guide, it's my duty. If I've offended you, please forgive me, Mr. Monroe. Yan Chuan nodded. You didn't offend me. As long as we get the myriad profundity lotus, nothing else matters. Mr. Monroe said. I'll do my best. Yin Chuan nodded. The 3,000 soldiers watched as Ding Wugu was eaten by the snakes. They all let out a long sigh and turned to look at Yin Chuan. Their eyes flashed with determination. Ding Wugu was killed. Under Mr. Monroe's lead, the army marched in a certain direction. Yin Chuan stood on Mr. Monroe's small boat, which floated forward in the air. Huguang's army followed below. We've already found the myriad profundity lotus. Why are we still carrying 3,000 burdens? Our speed has been seriously slowed down. Yang Zigu questioned. Prince Yen, why don't you let Qinglong stay behind to protect your 3,000 soldiers while we go and get the myriad profundity lotus? Mo Yushi also advised. Shaking his head, Yin Chuan smiled and said, no need. I can protect them. You? Just you? Yang Zigu smiled disdainfully. Just me. Yin Chuan said in a tone that was neither humble nor arrogant. All right. Mo Yushi nodded and didn't insist. Mr. Monroe kept sizing up Yin Chuan. However, Mr. Monroe, who had always been insightful, felt that he couldn't see through Yin Chuan. Saint, what have you encountered these days? How did you get out of the cage? Mr. Monroe asked curiously. We've already gotten out. Let's not talk about the cage. Mo Yushi shook her head. Seeing that Mo Yushi didn't want to talk about it, Mr. Monroe knew better than to ask any more questions. Mr. Monroe, when you found the heavenly lake earlier, were there other people around? Yin Chuan asked. Yes. Maybe we really did enter too late. When I rushed past the heavenly lake, I saw at least 10 people from different sects. Mr. Monroe said. There's already so many people? Then we'd better hurry. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Mr. Monroe shook his head and said. Don't worry, Mr. Yang. The shield outside the heavenly lake is not that easy to break. I can't even shake it with my full strength. I'm curious. How powerful is Mr. Monroe's full strength attack? Yin Chuan asked. I'm at the immortal state. Mr. Monroe didn't hide anything. Cultivating qi into spirit? Immortal state? Yin Chuan thought for a while. This feng shui formation has a very strange history. It has existed for at least thousands of years. I don't know how the rules were set. No one above the virtual realm is allowed to enter. Only immortal state cultivators can enter. Those who dare to go beyond the rules will be punished by the world. Mo Yushi explained. Those who dare to go beyond the rules will be punished by the world? Only those below the immortal state are allowed to enter? Why is there such a strange rule? Yin Chuan was puzzled. I'm not sure. Anyway, all the powerful sects have this rule. Our Dazhao sacred ground is the same. Otherwise, Mohina Dojin would have come here himself. Mo Yushi shook her head. I heard from Miss Mo that Mr. Monroe is a celestial being. Do you know about this? Yin Chuan looked at Mr. Monroe. Mr. Monroe shook his head and smiled bitterly. I swore not to reveal anything. Please forgive me. If that's the case, then forget it. Yin Chuan nodded. Mr. Monroe, you know about this? Mo Yushi was surprised. Not only do I know about it, but Mohina Dojin also knows about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't want to get the Demon Lotus of Wonders. It's just that. Mr. Monroe sighed. Mo Yushi wanted to ask more questions. We're here. Mr. Monroe suddenly shouted. Everyone immediately turned their heads and looked forward. The 3,000 soldiers also stopped when the boat stopped. Chapter 106. We're here. Mr. Monroe suddenly shouted. Everyone immediately turned their heads and looked forward. As soon as the small boat stopped, the 3,000 soldiers also stopped abruptly. In front of him there seemed to be a yellow gas wall. However, if he looked carefully, he would find that this gas wall was curved. It was a vast cylindrical yellow gas wall. Inside the qi wall, the top was yellow with a golden light, while the bottom was yellow with a black qi. The black gas was wreaking havoc in the yellow light. One could vaguely see a black-purple lotus with a pitch-black root 1,000 feet away. He seemed to be floating in the air. This is yellow light? It can't all be dragon vein energy, right? Qinglong said in astonishment. It's the dragon vein energy. Mo Yushi confirmed. Isn't this too exaggerated? I've never seen so much dragon vein energy in my entire life. How many are there? The white tiger said in astonishment. What a huge feng shui formation. What a heavy evil qi! Yin Chuan exclaimed. Evil qi. Qinglong looked at Yin Chuan. The entire feng shui formation is for this demonic lotus, right? But even with such a huge amount of power from the dragon veins, it can't be completely destroyed? Evil energy wreaks havoc. The myriad wonders demonic lotus is indeed extraordinary. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Does Prince Yin have a way to break it? Mr. Monroe asked. This small world is shrouded in thick fog. We can't see clearly from above. Let's go up and take a look. Yin Chuan said. Okay. Mr. Monroe nodded. The small boat carried everyone along the yellow wall and slowly floated up. It floated higher and higher. 2,000 feet. Qinglong said. Stop! Yin Chuan suddenly shouted. When the boat stopped, everyone raised their heads. The fog above them was getting thinner and thinner, and they could already see a little more clearly. This is a feng shui formation. How can you see the stars? Qinglong asked in surprise. We can't go any higher. If we go any higher, we'll be out of the feng shui formation. This leads to the outside world. Yin Chuan shouted. But I didn't see this entrance when I was in the outside world a few months ago. Mou, she said doubtfully. This exit can only be used to exit, not enter. Once you exit, you won't be able to find your way back. Yin Chuan shook his head. Mr. Monroe nodded. That's right. I released a Dharma artifact earlier. Once I left, I couldn't take it back. I originally thought that this was a hemispherical closed cover. I didn't expect it to be a cylindrical open cover. Yin Chuan frowned as he pondered. What's wrong, Yin Chuan? You said earlier that you could crack it. Why can't you do it now? You killed Ding Wugu. If you can't obtain the myriad wonder demonic lotus, you have to take full responsibility. Yang Zigu was still brooding over it. Yin Chuan ignored Yang Zigu and stared at the sky. Vaguely, Yin Chuan seemed to see a green pillar. It was very faint, so faint that he almost couldn't see it. The pillar was connected to the heavenly lake, and the other end was connected to the stars in the distance. What's that? Yin Chuan's eyes widened. Huh. Mr. Monroe's expression changed drastically as well. What's wrong? Yang Zigu was puzzled. That pillar? Is it the power of the stars? Mr. Monroe looked at Yin Chuan as if he was asking for confirmation. Absorbing the power of the stars? What a powerful feng shui formation. Who set it up? It absorbed the power of the 9 heavenly stars to destroy the myriad wonder demonic lotus? Yin Chuan's expression changed slightly. Absorb the power of the 9 heavenly stars? Mou, she said in surprise. The person who set up the formation is called Master Damiao. Mr. Monroe thought for a moment and said, Master Damiao? Yin Chuan said in surprise. He's not a Master Damiao. He should be a Master Damiao. According to the ancient records, he was at the pinnacle of the virtual realm. He only needed to go through the tribulation to become a Master Damiao. However, in the end, he died for unknown reasons and left behind this formation. Mr. Monroe thought for a moment and said. Chapter 107. Did the book mention how to break it? Yang Zigu asked. No. It's just a passing note. Mr. Monroe shook his head. Prince Yin, do you have any ideas? Mr. Monroe asked. Yin Chuan stared at the sky and looked at the stars. The power of the stars comes from the army destroyer? Yin Chuan asked seriously. Mr. Monroe looked up at the sky and nodded. That's right. This array is indeed extracting the power of the stars from the army destroyer. Look at the stars around the army destroyer. Could it be that the army destroyer was among the 9 stars a few months ago? Yin Chuan looked at Mr. Monroe. You don't know? Mr. Monroe asked curiously. I was asleep that day. Which 9 stars were it? It's the Big Dipper. Tanlang, Juman, Wuxia, Army Destroyer, Onsu, Lusin, Lianjin, Zhuofu, and Yubi. Mr. Monroe said. The Big Dipper? How can the 9 stars be connected in a line? Yin Chuan asked in surprise. That's why it's said to be a rare occurrence. No, there have been a lot of Big Dipper events since ancient times, but this is the first time the Big Dipper has been connected in a line. Mr. Monroe thought about it and said. Let's go down first. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said. Okay. Mr. Monroe nodded. The boat slowly sank down. Prince Yin, do you have a way to break this wall? Emoyushi asked anxiously. It's not difficult to break the wall of the Sky Lake. The main thing is, are you sure you can get the Demon Lotus? Yanchuan smiled. Emoyushi's expression changed. She immediately understood and a hint of gratitude flashed in her eyes. Then we'll have to trouble Prince Yan. Emoyushi took a deep breath and said, I will do my best. Yanchuan nodded. Yanchuan, how do we break through this heavenly pool wall? Yang Zigu asked bluntly. We still need to wait for about half a month. Yanchuan shook his head. With that, Yanchuan got off the boat and looked at the 3,000 silver armors. Huguang, let's set up camp and rest. Yanchuan ordered. Understood. Huguang replied. Huguang left to command the army. However, Yanchuan looked at Emoyushi and said, Miss Emo, can you let Qinglong, White Tiger, and the others go around the heavenly pool wall and patrol around to see how many experts there are? Did you hear what Prince Yan said? Emoyushi ordered. Yes, we'll go now. Qinglong, Rosefinch, White Tiger, and Xuanwu immediately flew out. Prince Yan wants to unite the experts and attack the heavenly pool wall together? Mr. Monroe asked. That's right. There's no other way. Yanchuan nodded. What kind of bullshit method is that? Do you even need to think about it? Isn't it just a group attack if one person can't break it? Yang Zigu suddenly shouted. Yang Zigu! Emoyushi shouted in disgust. When Yang Zigu saw that Emoyushi was angry, he immediately stopped scolding Yanchuan. It's not that simple. I just checked. This array is connected to the stars. The walls are not only strengthened by the dragon energy, but also by the power of the stars. Even an emptiness realm expert might not be able to break it. We have to wait until the middle of the month, when the array is at its weakest. Then we can attack the 8 fatal points of the heavenly pool wall at the same time to break it. Yanchuan said seriously. Why do we have to wait until the middle of the month? How do you know which 8 fatal points are? Yang Zigu asked in disbelief. The middle of the month, the night of the full moon, is the time when the yin qi is at its strongest. The power of the dragon veins will weaken temporarily. As for the 8 fatal points, have you forgotten how we came in? Yanchuan smiled. 8 fatal underworld? Emoyushi's eyes lit up. Chapter 108. That's right. These are the 8 directions. Yanchuan nodded. Prince Yan really knows a lot about feng shui. Mr. Monroe exclaimed. A close relative of mine once studied feng shui. I only heard a little about it. Yanchuan sighed. The feng shui master's wife in his previous life, Zhen Rou. Yanchuan's face darkened when he thought of Zhen Rou. So it's Yin Tao? I didn't expect this. Mr. Monroe exclaimed. He thought it was Yanchuan's father. Yanchuan shook his head and smiled without saying anything. Miss Mo, the Lotus of 10,000 Wonders is extremely evil. It shouldn't be touched. Yanchuan frowned. Mohina Dojin lent me this 8-treasure divine box before I came. I'll just use it to store it. Emoyushi took out a purple jade box. Will this work? Yanchuan looked at the purple jade box worriedly. What do you know? This is my father's treasure. The 8-treasure divine box. It's a 9th grade magical artifact. Yang Zigu was unhappy. A 9th grade magical artifact? That's great. Yanchuan nodded. There's still half a month left. Let's think about how to get the Lotus of 10,000 Wonders. Yanchuan said again. Okay. Everyone nodded. On the other side, the military tent was quickly set up. Yanchuan excused himself and left the group, heading towards the military tent. Huguang, come in. Lu Jin, guard outside. Don't let anyone in. Yanchuan said. Yes. Lu Jin replied. Yanchuan sat at the head of the tent. Huguang stood respectfully in front of Yanchuan. Huguang, how long have you been following me? Yanchuan asked in a deep voice. 7 years and 5 months. Huguang replied respectfully. It's been 7 years and 5 months. What are your ambitions? Yanchuan asked. Ambition? Huguang was slightly puzzled, but after thinking about it, he still said respectfully. Huguang's previous ambition was to reorganize the Hua family and restore the title of War God Marquis to its former glory, to comfort the spirits of our ancestors in heaven. But now my ambitions have changed. I hope to follow in the footsteps of the Lord and step into the world of cultivation. Even if I can't live forever, I won't regret it for the rest of my life. War God Marquis? Hey, you have the potential to be a fierce general and you have the opportunity. Even in the cultivation world, you can use the name of War God Marquis to intimidate thousands of immortal sects. Yin Chuan said with certainty. Yes, sir. Hu Guang said longingly. Do you know how to enter the essence state? Yin Chuan asked. Hu Guang thought for a while and said, I've heard that people in the force state cultivate their inner strength. But no matter how much or how strong their inner strength is, it will slowly dissipate as they age. However, the essence state is different. Practitioners in the essence state open up their acupoints and gather their inner strength into their essence state. The essence state is stored in their acupoints and explodes with endless power. The essence state can nourish the body and soul, and increase one's lifespan. Yin Chuan continued to listen. There's a gap between the force state and the essence state. Those who have achieved the completion state of the force state need to find a way to trigger the heavenly tribulation and summon the heavenly tribulation. They can use the heavenly tribulation to open up their acupoints and enter the essence state. Hu Guang said seriously. That's right. Do you want to break through? Yin Chuan asked with a smile. Yes, but I'm only at LV9 of the force state. I haven't achieved the completion state of the force state, let alone the heavenly tribulation. Hu Guang looked at Yin Chuan with a bitter smile. Don't worry. With me, Mr. Monroe, and Miss Mo, it won't be difficult for you to achieve the completion state of the force state in half a month. As for the heavenly tribulation, it'll be even easier. Yin Chuan said with certainty. Thank you, Lord. Hu Guang felt his heart pounding. The essence state? A few months ago, Hu Guang didn't even dare to think about it. But now it was right in front of him? He could take it freely? This isn't the key to calling you in. The key is the Star Force will. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, The Star Force will? Those who have achieved the spirit refinement will find their own natal star. Once they inherit the natal Star Force will, they can even mobilize the Star Force for their own use and strengthen themselves, Yin Chuan said. Natal star? Mobilize the Star Force? Hu Guang opened his mouth in shock. That's right. Take Mohina Dojin as an example. Although I've never met him, I know from his name that he must be extremely arrogant. He uses the sun as his natal star to mobilize the Sun Force. Yin Chuan said after thinking for a while. Natal star? The sun? Hu Guang was shocked. Normally, people will only find their own natal star after reaching the emptiness realm. They will form a connection with the natal star and inherit the Star Force will to strengthen themselves. If you can achieve the spirit refinement, you can also find your own natal star. There are countless stars in the sky. There will be a suitable one for you, Yin Chuan said. Hu Guang looked forward to it, but he also knew that Yin Chuan must have something else to say. However, there is a chance for you to inherit the Star Force will in the essence state. Are you willing? Yin Chuan asked. Now. Yes, the Alcade star. I can let you inherit it quickly. If you inherit it now, you will be many years ahead of others. However, once you inherit the Star Force will, you will not have the chance to inherit the Star Force will in the future. Yin Chuan said after thinking for a while. Hu Guang looked at Yin Chuan, took a deep breath and said, Without the Lord, I would not be where I am today. Everything will be decided by the Lord. Good, the Alcade Star Force will kill. You can only become stronger through killing. If you continue to be a general, you will become stronger as you fight. When you completely inherit the Star Force will, you will be the Marquis of the God of War. Yin Chuan said satisfactorily. Hu Guang will follow the Lord until death. Hu Guang knelt down on one knee and solemnly swore. Chapter 109. Yin Wudi in the Central Tent. Yin Chuan summoned Mr. Monroe, Mo Yushi, and Yang Zigu. Hu Guang stood aside. What? Do you have a way to get the 10,000 Wonders Lotus? Yang Zigu asked bluntly. Yin Chuan looked at Mr. Monroe and said, Look at Mr. Monroe's confident face. You must have thought of it too, right? Saintess Yushi and I thought of it together. We were just about to look for you. Mr. Monroe said politely. I'm not familiar with feng shui formations. It was mainly Mr. Monroe who came up with the idea. Emoyushi said politely. What? Both of you have an idea? What is it? Yang Zigu was speechless. Merge with the Feng Shui formation and draw in the draconic chi to get the 10,000 Wonders Lotus. Mr. Monroe said. Merge? How? Yang Zigu was confused. This Feng Shui formation draws in the stars to strengthen the power of the formation. It also gives us a chance. As long as we get the will of the army destroyer, we will be recognized by the Feng Shui formation. Then we can draw in the draconic chi to get the 10,000 Wonders Lotus. Mr. Monroe said confidently. That works. Yang Zigu was surprised. Mr. Monroe? Are you interested in the army destroyer? Yin Chuan smiled. I'm interested in the army destroyer. We're not interested in the army destroyer. Prince Yen, what about you? Mr. Monroe asked. Me? I don't need it. However, my first army commander, Huguang, can inherit the will of the army destroyer. There's still half a month left. What do you think? Yin Chuan asked. Huguang clenched his fists in excitement. Him? Humph. Yang Zigu said unhappily. That would be great. Mr. Monroe nodded. Huguang is now at LV9 of the Power Realm. In the next half a month, Miss Mo, as the Virgin of the Dazhao Holy Land, you must have a lot of resources. Can you push Huguang to LV10 of the Power Realm in half a month? Yin Chuan looked at Mo Yushi. Don't worry, it's just one level of the Power Realm. Leave it to me. Mo Yushi agreed readily. Mr. Monroe, you're an erudite celestial being. You must know a lot about triggering the first level thunder tribulation. Also, I'll have to trouble you with the will of the Alcade. Yin Chuan looked at Mr. Monroe and said, It's my honor. Mr. Monroe said with a smile. In that case, let's wait for half a month. Yin Chuan said confidently. Yes. Everyone nodded. After everyone left, Yang Zigu was left alone in the tent. Mr. Yang, what can I do for you? Yang Zigu also looked at Yin Chuan, holding back the disgust in his heart. Prince Yen. Yang Zigu said with an ugly smile. Mr. Yang, please speak your mind. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Huguang is your man. He listens to you. I want to ask you for a favor. Yang Zigu said with a fake smile. Oh, please speak, Mr. Yang. I would like to ask you to help me obtain the 10,000 Wonder Demonic Lotus. After obtaining it, I will definitely reward you greatly. I can even recommend you to my father and have him take you in as his disciple. How about it? Yang Zhizhou said with a fake smile. Ha ha, Mr. Yang, you must be joking. Am I not helping you now? Yin Chuan said with a smile. No, I mean help me get it. Just help me get it. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Yin Chuan looked at Yang Zigu with a teasing expression. I don't know what the result will be. Mr. Yang, if you follow me closely, you still have a chance to get the magic lotus. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Okay. Yang Zigu thought that Yin Chuan had agreed and was overjoyed. Chapter 110. Prince Yen. Mo Yushi's voice came from outside the tent. Yang Zigu's expression changed, and he said, if that's the case, I'll take my leave. Yin Chuan nodded. Yang Zigu hurried out, and Mo Yushi brought Qing Long and the rest in. Seeing that Yang Zigu had left, Mo Yushi frowned. She looked at Yin Chuan, and Mo Yushi chose not to ask. You're back? Yin Chuan looked at Qing Long and the rest. Yes, I've found out. However, I'm not sure if there are any experts hiding in the dark. Qing Long said with a smile. Let Mr. Monroe handle this matter. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Of course, I wouldn't dare to trouble Prince Yen with this matter. However, when I came back, I saw people who claimed to be from the Great Yin State. Qing Long said with certainty. Oh, people from the Yin State? Yin Chuan was slightly surprised. Should be. From the looks of it, they seem to be of high status in the Yin State. There were 3 people who had attained the full state of strength, and they were in a standoff with the great official of the Great Zhang State. Qing Long nodded. The great official of the Great Zhang State? Lu Gang? He's not dead yet? Yin Chuan's expression changed slightly. Outside the Heavenly Lake's protective shield, there was a wide valley. Around the valley there were close to 100 people. Judging by the way they stood, it was obvious that they were not on the same side. They looked more like spectators. Hundreds of people gathered around and stared at the center of the battlefield. On one side there were two people. One of them was the great official of the Great Zheng state, Lu Gang. The demon snake had been eaten by Yan Chuan, and now it was here. Lu Gang bowed respectfully to a middle-aged man in a luxurious robe. The man had a broad face and a domineering look in his eyes. Opposite the two of them was an extremely noble-looking young man. The young man carried a purple longsword on his back, and behind him stood three old men, all of them glaring angrily at the other side. Lu Gang said respectfully to the middle-aged man beside him, "King Mai. He is the crown prince of the Yan state." The middle-aged man looked at Lu Gang and revealed a faint smile. "Lu Gang, what are you worried about? Since I've agreed to take you as my disciple, I'll naturally recognize you as my disciple. Zheng's imperial family is my descendant. Since you're wholeheartedly devoted to Zheng, I'll naturally help you." "Yes, thank you, master," Lu Gang said excitedly. "I made an agreement with Yen Tao back then. Neither of us would interfere in the affairs between the two kingdoms. Now that Yen Tao is dead, I can't go back on my word. I won't interfere. As for you, it's up to you what you want to do," King Yimu said calmly. "Yes, disciple understands what to do." Lu Gang understood tacitly. King Yimu nodded. Lu Gang looked at the four people opposite him again, especially the young man in the lead. The young man was about 17 or 18 years old, about the same age as Yan Chuan. His appearance was more delicate, and there was a strong sense of heroism between his brows. "Yin Wudi, do you still stand by your words?" Lu Gang asked with a smile. Yin Wudi nodded. "Of course I can represent my father and the Yin state. But what about you? You're just Zheng's consecrated. My master is King Yimu of Zheng. With my master as the witness, I can naturally represent Zheng," Lu Gang said. Yin Wudi looked at King Yimu. "That's right." King Yimu nodded with a smile. Seeing King Yimu nod, Yin Wudi took a deep breath and said, "All right, if that's the case, then let's compete. I'll bet the 6 southern cities of Yen state against the 6 northern cities of Zheng. We'll decide the victor in one battle." "Good," Lu Gang said with satisfaction. Chapter 111. King Yimu stood at the side and watched calmly. "Your Highness." The three people behind Yin Wudi asked worriedly. Yin Wudi shook his head and said, "Don't worry, my master is just checking the surroundings. He'll be back soon. Lu Gang and I are having a fair fight. King Yimu won't do anything to me." "All right, Your Highness, be careful." The three stepped back. Nearly 100 onlookers looked on curiously. Only Yin Wudi and Lu Gang were left in the center. "Yin Wudi, LV9 of the Strength Realm. Nice to meet you." Yin Wudi drew the purple sword from his back. "LV9 of the Strength Realm? Haha, let's cut the crap. Come on." Lu Gang rubbed his bald head and drew his sword as well. The onlookers looked at Yin Wudi with disdain. "LV9 of the Strength Realm? This mortal really doesn't know his place. He dares to challenge Lu Gang despite knowing that he's only at LV10 of the Strength Realm? With King Yimu's support, this Yin Wudi is bound to lose. Yin State? It seems like Yin Tao was in charge in the past. What a pity." Yin Wudi didn't care about the lamentations of the onlookers. Yin Wudi's hair fluttered in the wind. Yin Wudi's narrowed eyes opened, and the long sword in his hand immediately pierced towards Lu Gang. Buzz! The purple sword sliced through the air and reached Lu Gang in the blink of an eye. "That's all you got," Lu Gang said disdainfully. A wisp of black smoke seeped out of the iron sword and was about to hit the purple sword. But at that moment, the purple sword tilted slightly and dodged the iron sword. Then it stabbed Lu Gang's sword hilt. Ding! Lu Gang's hand went numb and his iron sword almost slipped out of his hand. Huh! Lu Gang's expression changed. Ding! 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 Yin Wudi's sword moved faster and faster. Although his strength was not as good as Lu Gang's, his speed was not slow at all. Moreover, he used his exquisite swordsmanship to force Lu Gang to retreat again and again. "The great river surges, the Tao of hell is endless," Yin Wudi shouted. The sword technique in his hand was like a torrential river, crashing against Lu Gang wave after wave. How is this possible? Lu Gang actually retreated in defeat. In the blink of an eye, Lu Gang was actually suppressed by Yan Wudi and was unable to counterattack. Everyone's eyes lit up. Is this the sword art created by Yin Tao, that torrential sword art? That's right. I've seen him before. He was Yin Tao of the Day sect. His sword techniques were torrential and he won every battle. This young man has actually learned 70% of the charm. Good sword art. The sounds of praises were endless. The three consecrated heaved a sigh of relief. On the other hand, King Wild raised an eyebrow and looked at Yan Wudi's sword art with a slightly serious expression. His sword art has reached such a level at such a young age? King Wild furrowed his brows. Torrential river, the sky collapses and falls. Yan Wudi shouted loudly, and a dazzling purple light suddenly erupted from the longsword in his hand. It was as if the longsword had transformed into a great river that rushed toward Lu Gang. At the same time, Yan Wudi seemed to have become one with the great river in an instant. It was as if he had disappeared into the sword art. Boom! Lu Gang was sent flying, and the iron sword in his hand instantly shattered, scattering all over the ground. You! Lu Gang looked at Yan Wudi in shock. It was as if he couldn't believe that he had lost to a young man. Did I see wrongly just now? Yan Wudi disappeared into the sword river? Man and sword as one? Impossible. How old is he? How could he have comprehended man and sword as one? Discussions broke out in the surroundings, and many people revealed looks of disbelief. Innate sword bone? King Wild suddenly said. Everyone looked at King Wild. I didn't think that there would be an innate sword bone among Yin Tao's descendants. Man and sword as one? Innate sword bone? Kid, are you willing to accept me as your master? King Wild suddenly shouted. No need. I already have a master. Yan Wudi said arrogantly. You already have a master? The purple sword in your hand is no ordinary sword. Is it a gift from your so-called master? King Wild said indifferently. That's right. The sword's name is Indigo. When I accepted him as my master, I swore that with this indigo sword, I would defeat all swords in the world. Yan Wudi said with certainty. Arrogant. A mere mortal dares to say that he would worship all swords in the world? Lu Gang. King Wild said in a deep voice. Your disciple is here. Lu Gang crawled up from the ground with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. Today I will bestow upon you the flying sword Flowing Light. It will allow you to behead someone from 1,000 miles away. King Wild said in a deep voice. As he spoke, King Wild reached out with his hand, and a green longsword appeared in his palm. A flying sword? Lu Gang's eyes lit up. Master will help you refine the flying sword. Let's fight again. King Wild shouted. Yes, Lu Gang said excitedly. Chapter 112. Yan Wudi come again, huh? Lu Gang shouted excitedly. 2 meters away from Lu Gang, a green longsword floated in the air. As Lu Gang spoke, the flying sword quickly flew around Lu Gang. Following Lu Gang's thoughts, the flying sword danced in the air. King Yimu stood to the side and watched quietly. The 100 or so onlookers were also silent. The 3 Yin state guardians looked worried. Yan Wudi held the azulate sword in his hand and watched with a serious expression. Come! Yan Wudi didn't back down at all. Xiao! The flying sword instantly shot towards Yan Wudi. Ding! The 2 swords collided with each other. Although Lu Guang was a flying sword, its strength was about the same as Zi Qing's. The 2 swords collided and retreated. Lu Gang's hand gestures were flying as he quickly controlled the flowing light to make a turn and slash towards Yan Wudi. Ding! Yan Wudi was also a genius in the sword Dao. He used the back sword style to block the slash of the flowing light. However, the flying swords were too strange. Without the obstruction of the sword wielder, they could attack from countless different angles, and each of them was fatal. Clink! 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 Lu Gang commanded the flying swords to attack at an extremely fast speed, rushing towards Yan Wudi like a storm, while he himself was more than 500 feet away, basically in an invincible position. Ha ha ha, Yan Wudi, your sword is too short. You can't hurt me. You will lose sooner or later. You should admit defeat. Lu Gang excitedly commanded his sword. Flying sword versus long sword. Yan Wudi will definitely lose. Yan Wudi can only defend. He can't attack Lu Gang. How can he win? Admit defeat. It's only 6 cities. Sounds of discussion could be heard all around. Yin Wuti cut a sorry figure as he swung the flying swords around. There were a few times where he almost lost his life to the flying swords. However, King Wild narrowed his eyes. Innate sword bones? As expected of an innate sword bone. Just a moment ago he was still in a panic, but in such a short period of time he was actually adapting to the flying sword. This child is extraordinary. He will become a great threat if we let him live. King Yi Mu's eyes narrowed. The finger hidden in King Mai's sleeve curled slightly. Buzz! The flying sword suddenly exploded with a dazzling green light. Boom! Ah! The flying sword erupted with a power several times stronger than before. With another violent collision, Yin Wuti was sent flying. Bang! Yin Wuti fell to the ground. Buzz! The flying sword suddenly shot in front of Yin Wuti, pointing straight at his throat. You lost! Lu Gang shouted excitedly. Yin Wuti looked at the flying sword in front of his throat, his face full of unwillingness. There are 6 cities in the southern border. Once we're out of the feng shui formation, the state of Zhang can send people to retrieve them. Although Yin Wuti was unwilling, he kept his promise. Lu Gang waved his hand, and the flying sword immediately returned to him. Yin Wuti, the Yin state will soon be destroyed without Yin Tao. How about becoming my disciple? I can guarantee your Yin state's safety for 100 years. King Mai said. After all, an innate sword bone was too rare. Yin Wuti shook his head and said, I already said that I've already become your disciple. So what if you've become his disciple? At most he can protect you. He can't protect the Yin state. Once Yin Tao is dead, who will protect the Yin state? As for you, once you're strong enough, the Yin state will be long gone. King Mai tried to persuade him again. Yin Wuti clenched his fists. Although he knew that King Mai was right, he was still stubborn. He refused to change his master. So, King Mai pressed forward. Who said that no one will protect the Yin state? The Day sect has always been protecting it. A voice came from the crowd. Chapter 113. King Ye's eyes widened as he looked into the distance. A middle-aged Taoist with a long sword on his back and a gourd hanging from his waist walked over with a smile. It was none other than Zhu Jiansheng, who had taken away the Day sect disciples after Yan Chuan taught them a lesson. Zhu Jiansheng? It's you? King Yi said coldly. Ha ha ha, Senior Mai, Martial Uncle Yin Tao is protecting the Yin state because of the Day sect. Have you forgotten? He's a junior from the Yin state. Senior Mai, you won't make things difficult for him, right? Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. What? Zhu Jiansheng, are you interested in this kid as well? King Yi asked in a low voice. An innate sword bone is indeed suitable for the path of the sword. Of course I'm interested. However, I won't force him. It's all up to him. Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. Senior Zhu Jiansheng, thank you for your kindness. I've already become your disciple. I won't change my mind. Yin Wuti said. It's fine. Martial Uncle Yin Tao is a genius. It's normal for him to have a few geniuses among his juniors. I can only say that we're not fated to be together. However, I've promised Martial Uncle Yin Tao that I'll protect the Yin state. Zhu Jiansheng said. Yin Tao is dead, and there's no one from the Yin state in the Day sect. Does the Day sect want to make an enemy out of me because of an insignificant person? King Yi said in a low voice. I wouldn't dare. However, Senior Mai is wrong. Who said that there's no one from the Yin state in the Day sect? Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. King Yi narrowed his eyes. Are you talking about Yin Chuan? Yin Tao's son? Lu Gang exclaimed. Oh, ha ha, Yin Tao's son? You're only in your teens, right? What? You're still alive? King Yimu chuckled. Of course I'm still alive. Suddenly a voice sounded. King Mai is of the same generation as my father, and I've admired him for a long time. But today, he used his cultivation to bully a junior of the Yin clan. This doesn't match the rumors. Ah, this has disappointed Yin Chuan. A voice suddenly came from the crowd. King Ye's expression darkened. Lu Gang, Zhu Jiansheng, and Yin Wuti all looked in the direction of the voice. The crowd dispersed as 5 people slowly walked out. They were Yan Chuan, Lu Jin, Mo Yuxi, Qinglong, and White Tiger. King Wild narrowed his eyes when he saw the 5 of them. Apart from Yan Chuan and Lu Jin, he couldn't see through their cultivation bases. Yan Chuan. It's you. Lu Gang said with hatred in his eyes. Isn't this honorary Lu? I have to thank Consecrator Lu for the last time. The snake meat was indeed delicious. Yan Chuan smiled as he walked out. You. Lu Gang's expression darkened. Junior brother Yan Chuan. We meet again. Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. Yan Chuan looked at Zhu Jiansheng and nodded. Thank you for making enemies with King Mai for our great Yan. Haha, I'll keep my promise to your father, Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. Yan Chuan nodded and looked at Yan Wudi and the 3 honorary elders. My king lord. The 3 honorary elders thought for a moment and stepped forward. Yan Chuan smiled. Crown Prince, this is the king equal to 1. Lu Jin reminded. Yan Chuan waited quietly. Looking at Yan Chuan, who was about the same age as him, Yan Wudi had a complicated expression on his face. Crown Prince, you can't forget the etiquette. One of the honorary elders advised in a low voice. Yan Wudi raised his eyebrows and nodded. He took a deep breath and bowed to Yan Chuan. Greetings, Uncle Wang. Yan Wudi said with difficulty. If it weren't for etiquette, Yan Wudi wouldn't have said it. In Yan Wudi's heart, he didn't respect Yan Chuan at all. Chapter 114. Yan Chuan's status was the same as Yan Emperor's, which meant that he was in the same generation as Yan Emperor. That was why Yan Wudi addressed him as Uncle Wang. Not bad. You're born with a sword bone. With some training, you'll definitely become someone great. Yan Chuan nodded in satisfaction. Yan Wudi's expression turned strange as he listened to Yan Chuan's words. He didn't respond. After the reunion, Yan Chuan's gaze turned to the outside world again. King Yi. Yan Chuan smiled. Yan Tao and I are in the same generation. You should call me Martial Uncle. King Yi smiled. Ha ha ha, I haven't even joined the Day sect yet. How can I call you Martial Uncle? But King Yi knows that you're in the same generation as my father. Why would you sneak attack a junior? Yan Chuan smiled. King Yi narrowed his eyes. One had to know that his attack was extremely subtle. How could a mortal like Yan Chuan know? Could it be? Yan Wudi looked at King Wild in surprise. Was it really King Wild's doing that caused his flying sword's power to skyrocket? Yan Chuan, you brat. Do you think you can slander my master? Lu Gang immediately scolded. Heh, so it's honorary Lu. What's wrong? Do you feel proud teaming up with King Yi to bully a junior? Yan Chuan said disdainfully. You're the one. Lu Gang was furious. Impudent. King Yi suddenly yelled. With a shout, King Wild's aura suddenly skyrocketed as he charged towards Yan Chuan. His powerful aura swept up a huge cloud of dust as it rushed toward Yan Chuan. Boom! A gust of wind blew and King Ye's aura was pushed back. A person suddenly appeared in front of Yan Chuan. It was Qinglong. Qinglong glared at King Wild, his aura surging towards King Wild. King Yimu's expression froze. Their auras clashed against each other, and layers of shockwaves rolled out in all directions. At this moment, the eyes of the onlookers were filled with excitement. Who is this person? He's actually on par with King Yi? He's helping Yan Chuan? Am I not a friend of Yan Tao? That's right. Yan Tao was a peerless talent back then. It's normal for him to have a few powerful friends. There were endless discussions all around. Qinglong and King Wild also slowly withdrew their attacks. No one could do anything to the other. Who are you? King Wild stared at Qinglong. You don't need to know. Qinglong shook his head and stood behind Yan Chuan. King Wild's eyes flickered. In the end, he looked at Yan Chuan again. At this moment, he looked at Yan Chuan with a much more serious gaze. Yan Wudi also looked at this Uncle Wang with a complicated expression. His eyes flashed with confusion. Lu Gang, did you just cheat my nephew of 6 cities? Yan Chuan yelled at Lu Gang. Lu Gang almost vomited blood. Was that cheating? I'm betting with him. How is that cheating? Lu Gang said gloomily. Betting? Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. That's right. He used 6 cities in the south of the Yin dynasty, and I used 6 cities in the north of the Zheng dynasty. It's a fair bet. How is that cheating? Lu Gang explained. You can decide the cities in Zheng? Yin Chuan asked. My master is the Zheng dynasty's King Wild. His status is higher than the Zheng emperor. Of course I can. Lu Gang said proudly. If that's the case, how about I bet with you? Yin Chuan smiled. You? Lu Gang frowned. What? You don't dare? You dare to cheat my nephew, but you don't dare to bet with me? Yin Chuan said disdainfully. Let's bet. Lu Gang suddenly stopped and looked at King Wild. If he wants to bet, then you'll have to accompany him. You're only at LV8 strength realm. King Wild said disdainfully. Yes. Lu Gang said immediately. If you want to die, then don't blame me. I'll bet 6 cities with you. Lu Gang said confidently. 6 cities? I can't afford that. Yin Chuan smiled. Haha, it's good that you know your place. If you can't afford 6 cities, how many cities do you want to bet? 4 cities, 3 cities? 1 city is fine too. Lu Gang said excitedly. You don't understand what I mean. I said that 6 cities are too little. Yin Chuan laughed. Too little? How much do you want to bet? Lu Gang frowned. My Yin state has 3 provinces in the south and 42 cities. Do you dare to bet? Yin Chuan asked with a solemn expression. Chapter 115. The Yin state has 3 provinces and 42 cities in Nanjiang. Do you dare to bet? Yin Chuan's face turned solemn. 3 provinces? 42 cities? Lu Gang took a deep breath. That was equivalent to 1/5 of the Yin state's territory. The whole of Nanjiang was at stake? Not only Lu Gang, but even Crown Prince Yin Wudi's expression changed. Yin Wudi had taken a huge risk in the first 6 cities. How could Yin Chuan do it? What? You don't dare? Yin Chuan laughed. What a joke. It's not that I don't dare, but can you afford it? Lu Gang scolded. In the Yin state, my words are the Yin emperor's words. Do you think I can afford it? Yin Chuan said in a low voice. You. Lu Gang was speechless. It's only 42 cities. Ask your master if he dares. Yin Chuan teased. Mas master. Lu Gang looked at King Yi. 42 cities. Lu Gang didn't dare to make the decision. King Yi stared at Yin Chuan and fell silent for a while. Then he suddenly laughed. Ha ha, good. As expected of Yin Tao's son. 42 cities? It's only 42 cities. The Zheng dynasty has 42 cities in Nanjiang. Lu Gang bet with him. Yes. Lu Gang answered. In King Ye's eyes, Lu Gang was at 10th stage strength realm, while Yin Chuan was at 8th stage strength realm. Moreover, Yin Chuan was definitely not as experienced as Lu Gang. How could Lu Gang lose this battle? Yin Chuan, since you want to lose, then come at me. Ha 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 ha. Lu Gang calmed himself down and laughed. Yin Wudi looked anxious, but for some reason, he swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. He looked at Yin Chuan with a complicated expression. Yin Chuan chuckled. Sure, but I still want to know if you're going to fight me alone, or if you and King Mai are going to team up against me. Impudent. King Wildmu glared at Qin Lai. His face flushed with anger. My master won't interfere, just me. Lu Gang also shouted. Yin Chuan chuckled. All right, but my sword strikes are extremely fast, and I can't stop myself. King Mai, watch out for me. If your precious disciple is in danger, you still have to save him. How arrogant. King Yimu said coldly. Yin Chuan, do you only know how to talk? Draw your swords. Lu Gang shouted. I don't have a sword. Yin Chuan said indifferently. King Mai. Lu Gang. Nephew, lend me your azure sword. If I defeat Lu Gang, I'll return it to you. Yin Chuan looked at Yin Wudi. Yin Wudi looked at Yin Chuan strangely with a complicated expression. Uncle Wang, please. Yin Wudi reluctantly handed over the azure sword. Yin Chuan grabbed the azure sword and flicked his finger. Ding! Purple steel essence? What a good sword. What's more, it's most suitable for someone with an innate sword bone. It seems like your new master is also someone who understands swords. Yin Chuan praised. Yin Wudi was surprised. Yin Chuan grabbed the azulate sword and lightly waved it twice. He then looked at Lu Gang and said, "Come, I'm very fast." "Humph." Lu Gang snorted. With a cold snort, Lu Gang waved his finger. Buzz! The flying sword, flowing light, suddenly trembled. Whoosh! The azure light instantly shot towards Yin Chuan. It was extremely fast, as if it wanted to pierce through Yin Chuan. Everyone stared at the flying sword. Yin Chuan's eyes narrowed, and he suddenly thrust the azure sword forward. Ding! The two swords suddenly clashed. Sparks flew. The flying sword was sent flying back. Chapter 116. But at this moment several pairs of eyes suddenly froze. King Mai Qinglong, Zhu Jiansheng, and even Yin Wudi, who was born with the sword bone. Everyone looked at Yin Chuan. That strike was too accurate, so accurate that it was unimaginable. When Yin Wudi fought, their swords only clashed at the edge, but Yin Chuan's strike was at the tip. Yin Chuan's sword had pierced through that tiny point? Coincidence? It must be a coincidence. Zhu Jiansheng muttered to himself. Yin Wudi's expression became more and more complicated, while King Mai's expression became more and more serious. After a moment of collision, the flying sword shot back towards Yin Chuan. At this moment, Yin Chuan strangely turned around. His turn was fierce and fast. He swung the azure sword in his hand in a circle, and when it reached its maximum speed, it just happened to turn back. Yin Chuan suddenly let go of the azure sword, which was pointed at Lu Gang, and even gave the azure sword a boost. "Go!" Yin Chuan shouted. The azure sword flew out of his hand, and like a flying sword, it shot towards Lu Gang at an extremely fast speed. Whoosh! The azure sword and the flying sword almost brushed past each other. The azure sword shot towards Lu Gang, while the flying sword shot towards Yin Chuan. Seeing this scene, almost everyone was petrified. What's going on? Why did Yin Chuan throw the sword away? He's crazy. The azure sword isn't a flying sword. Does he think it's a dart? Not only were the onlookers shocked, but even Yin Wudi and King Mai were stunned by this scene. In a flash, the flying sword arrived in front of Yin Chuan, and he was about to be stabbed by the flying sword. Yin Chuan shifted his feet and leaned his body to the side, narrowly dodging the flying sword. The flying sword brushed past the tip of Yin Chuan's nose. Just when everyone thought that the flying sword had failed, they looked towards the azulate sword on the other side. Yin Chuan moved again. No one knew when, but his right arm had already stretched out. He stretched out his hand and grabbed. In the blink of an eye, he had actually grabbed the hilt of the flying sword. Grabbed the hilt of the flying sword? He had lost the azulate sword and caught the flying sword? Yin Wudi looked at this strange fighting style in astonishment. But it wasn't over yet. Yin Chuan once again made a big turn, grabbed the flying sword and swung it in a big circle. With a huge momentum, when Yin Chuan's figure stood upright, he suddenly swung the flying sword out, and the flying sword was shot out in the direction of Lu Gang. The azulate sword and flying sword shot towards Lu Gang at the same time. With two magnificent turns, two swords shot towards Lu Gang. The shocking change made the surrounding spectators hold their breaths. Their eyes shone with a dazzling light. Swish! Swish! The azulate sword was the first to reach Lu Gang. With the terrifying sword tip in front of him, how could Lu Gang still have the mind to control the flying sword? At this moment, the flying sword seemed to be blocked by a huge force, and he couldn't control it. Ah! Horrified, Lu Gang retreated backward. But no matter how fast he was, how could he be faster than two swords? Whoosh! Whoosh! The two swords were overflowing with killing intent. In the blink of an eye, they were about to pierce through Lu Gang. Master! Lu Gang cried out in horror. Pung! Pung! King Wild suddenly stood in front of Lu Gang, holding a sword in each hand. His fingertips held the two swords in place, and they trembled violently. Hiss! King Wild looked at the two swords in his hands in shock. Lu Gang had escaped with his life. His forehead was covered in sweat. As he gasped for breath, his heart was still flustered. The surrounding spectators couldn't help but feel the soul-stirring scene. Their hearts were surging. Good. Mo Yushi was the first to cry out. Mo Yushi looked at Yin Chuan again, and her eyes flashed with excitement. It was as if she was the one who had unleashed the graceful dual swords just now. Good sword. Zhu Jiansheng also sobered up. Amazing. I didn't think that sword techniques could be used like this. This is the first time I've seen someone use a sword like this. It's amazing. Sword toss, sword snatch, sword toss. Amazing. I didn't expect this. Yan Chuan, Yan Tao's son, like father like son. Just as expected. Cheers came from all around. Yan Chuan's move was indeed amazing. Yan Wudi looked at Uncle Wang with a complicated expression. Although he was known as a sword genius, there was no way he could defeat Lu Gang in a single round. Could it be that Uncle Wang's sword technique was even better? No, I will surpass you. I will become the strongest sword cultivator in the world. Yan Wudi clenched his fists and swore in his heart. Cheers came from all around. On the other hand, King Yimu and Lu Gang's expressions were extremely ugly. King Yimu had made his move, announcing Lu Gang's complete defeat. The 42 cities of the Great Zheng had also changed hands in this short moment. Master, I didn't think that Yan Chuan would throw away his sword. I also didn't think that he would snatch my flying sword. Lu Gang hurriedly explained. But what was the point of explaining? A loss was a loss. He didn't think that Yan Chuan would toss the azure sword. He was completely unprepared. He was doomed to lose. King Yimu gripped his two swords and looked at Yan Chuan with a gloomy expression. Yan Chuan's amazing move was like a slap to his face. He couldn't defend himself at all. Yan Chuan. King Yimu said coldly. Thank you for your 42 cities, King Yimu. Yan Chuan thanks you. Yan Chuan said with a smile. At this moment, Yan Chuan's laughter was ear-piercing. Ha, Yan Tao's son. King Yimu's voice was extremely cold. As he spoke, King Yimu's hand suddenly shone with a black light, as if he wanted to destroy the azure sword to vent his anger. Stop! Yan Wudi shouted in Jiaohu's direction. Who dares to destroy my sword? An angry roar suddenly came from all directions. Hum! 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 Following this angry roar, a powerful sword intent spread out. Among the 100 or so onlookers, as long as they had a sword, their swords suddenly trembled. It was as if they were welcoming the arrival of the King of Swords. The azure sword and azure sword, flowing light, were trembling even though they were in King Yimu's hand. Zhu Jiansheng was the first to react. He quickly pressed down on his sword, preventing it from humming. Whoosh! The azure sword left King Yimu's hand and shot towards the center of the field. Another person suddenly appeared in the center of the field. It was a black-robed man with white hair at his temples. He stood alone in the center of the field, and a powerful sword intent shot out from where he stood. Pa! The man grabbed the azure sword. Master! Yan Wudi exclaimed in surprise. Dugu Sword Emperor? Qing Long raised his eyebrows. The black-robed man in the center of the field held the azure sword and stared at King Yimu with cold eyes. It was as if two extremely sharp swords could shoot out from his eyes. His powerful aura was like a sharp sword, pointing straight at people's hearts. Many of the spectating experts retreated under the pressure of this aura. It's you, Dugu Sword Emperor? King Yimu's face turned ugly. Why is my disciple's sword in your hands? Dugu Sword Emperor said coldly. Chapter 117. It's you, Dugu Sword Emperor? King Yimu asked with an ugly expression. Why is my disciple's sword in your hands? The Dugu Sword Emperor asked coldly. Yes. A fierce aura surged towards King Yimu. Under the pressure of the Dugu Sword Emperor, King Yimu's expression changed. Clearly, the Dugu Sword Emperor's aura was stronger. Master! Yan Wudi quickly stepped forward. Master, I lent the sword to Uncle Wang. Yan Wudi immediately explained. What's going on? The Dugu Sword Emperor raised his eyebrows. The pressure on King Yimu also lessened slightly. King Yimu felt better after the pressure lessened, but he had already lost all his face. Humph! King Yimu snorted coldly, venting his frustration. Yan Wudi explained everything to the Dugu Sword Emperor. Oh, fling the sword? The Dugu Sword Emperor suddenly looked towards Yan Chuan. Yes. Yan Wudi nodded affirmatively. When he looked at Yan Chuan, his expression became even more complicated. From now on, remember this. The sword is your life. Never let it leave your body, and never lend it to anyone. The Dugu Sword Emperor said solemnly. Yes. Yin Wuti solemnly received the azure sword. The Dugu Sword Emperor returned the azure sword and looked towards Yin Chuan. His gaze was as sharp as a sword as he stared at Yin Chuan, who was not far away. His gaze was extremely sharp, but Yin Chuan did not move at all. He even smiled at the Dugu Sword Emperor. Fling the sword? Humph. The Dugu Sword Emperor snorted coldly. Hum. Hum. The swords of the surrounding experts hummed again. No one knew what the Dugu Sword Emperor was planning. Suddenly, a person's sword soared into the sky. Whoosh! A long sword soared into the sky. Swish! 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 The 50 swords around him suddenly soared into the sky. Ah, my sword! Why is my sword flying? Is it the Dugu Sword Emperor? The people who had their swords flying all around all revealed a look of panic. If his sword was controlled by someone else, wouldn't it be easy for the Dugu Sword Emperor to take his head? Swish! Swish! The heads of the 50 swords suddenly pointed at Yin Chuan. They turned into 50 streams of light and instantly pierced towards him. Boom! Just like the ones that were aimed at Lu Gang, they were all aimed at Yin Chuan. Moreover, there were 50 of them. The 50 streams of light were like 50 death talismans, pressing forward with an indomitable will, producing an ear-piercing sound as they tore through the air. It was as if they wanted to shoot Yin Chuan into a hedgehog. The sword tore through the void and arrived before him in an instant. It's over. The onlookers felt pity for Yin Chuan. Bastard! How dare you! Qing Long and Mo Yushi suddenly roared. Qing Long, White Tiger, and Mo Yushi acted at almost the same time. A wall of air suddenly appeared in front of Yin Chuan. Wang! 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 The 50 swords pierced through the air wall and continued to penetrate deeper. The 3 immortal state experts defended together, but the swords eventually all stopped. The closest sword stopped 5 inches away from Yin Chuan's forehead. Mo Yushi, Qing Long, and White Tiger were enraged. The Dugu Sword Emperor's gaze was cold and solemn. Yin Chuan, who was pointed at by the sword, was still expressionless. Even when the sword was only 5 inches away from his forehead, his eyelids didn't even twitch. Yin Chuan even looked at the Dugu Sword Emperor with interest and revealed a faint smile. Boom! Under Mo Yushi's anger, the 50 swords suddenly shot back. Dugu Sword Emperor, do you want to die? Mo Yushi's eyes widened. At this moment, Mo Yushi didn't know why she was so angry. It was as if she had lost her mind. Chapter 118. Miss Mo. Yin Chuan suddenly called out. Mo Yushi frowned and turned her head. Thank you. I'm fine now. Yin Chuan smiled. Yin Chuan's smile seemed to have a magical power that instantly melted the anger in Mo Yushi's heart. Mo Yushi calmed down and secretly sighed with a smile. Qing Long and White Tiger were still staring angrily at the Dugu Sword Emperor. But the Dugu Sword Emperor was looking at Yin Chuan strangely. You're not afraid of death? The Dugu Sword Emperor frowned. Yin Chuan wasn't affected by the swords at all? The Dugu Sword Emperor couldn't understand why this youth was so calm. You don't have any killing intent. Why should I be afraid? However, I don't like this feeling. Yin Chuan said indifferently. Oh. The Dugu Sword Emperor was slightly surprised. You are my nephew's master. I won't bicker with you this time. Controlling the sword with intent. Illuminated sword heart. My nephew has indeed found a good master. I'm relieved that he's willing to become your disciple. Yin Chuan said indifferently. The Dugu Sword Emperor's expression became even more strange. This was because the Dugu Sword Emperor couldn't see through Yin Chuan. On the other side, Yin Wuti's expression became even more complicated. Yin Wuti couldn't understand why this Uncle Wang was so calm in front of so many immortals. Compared to Uncle Wang, he really seemed to be lacking a lot. Lacking a lot? No. Yin Wuti's eyes suddenly focused. He clenched his fists tightly. He no longer held Yin Chuan in high regard. In fact, there was even a trace of fighting spirit in his eyes. Sensing Yin Wuti's fighting spirit, Yin Chuan smiled faintly. Yin Wuti, follow your master and practice your sword well. I will allow you to challenge me once, but at that time, Your name must resound throughout the world. Famous throughout the world? Yan Wudi had a complicated expression on his face. Yan Chuan gave Yan Wudi a final smile before turning to look at Mo Yushi. Let's go, Yan Chuan said. Mo Yushi nodded. Yan Chuan walked in front while Mo Yushi, Qinglong, White Tiger, and Lu Jin followed behind. They slowly walked into the crowd. Looking at Yan Chuan's departing figure, almost everyone fell silent. King Mai's face was completely swept away. Zhu Jiansheng's eyes flashed with admiration. The fighting spirit in Yan Wudi's eyes rose. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. In the military camp, Yan Chuan, Mo Yushi, and Mr. Monroe were all looking at Huguang, who was sitting cross-legged in the center. Around Huguang, silver light shone. Boom! A surge of violent energy exploded around Huguang, blowing away a large amount of dust on the ground. Huguang opened his eyes and stood up abruptly. As he stretched his body, a series of pop-pop-pop sounds could be heard. Phew! Huguang retracted his aura. His eyes were filled with surging emotions. Lord, your subordinate has reached level 10 of the strength realm complete. Thank you, Lord, for your help, Huguang said excitedly. Although Mo Yushi and Mr. Wenrua had put in a lot of effort during this period of time, Huguang knew in his heart that all of this was facilitated by Yan Chuan. Haha, good. You also have to thank Miss Mo and Mr. Monroe, Yan Chuan said with satisfaction. Thank you both. Huguang also bowed respectfully. Level 10 of the strength realm is good. We're about to break through the final barrier. Follow me later, Mr. Monroe said. Okay, Huguang replied. Do you remember what I told you the day before yesterday? Yan Chuan looked at Huguang. Yes, your subordinate dares not forget, Huguang said with a serious face. Go. Just listen to Mr. Monroe. Yan Chuan nodded. Chapter 119. Yes. Mr. Monroe, let's begin. Mo Yushi looked at Mr. Monroe. Okay. Everyone slowly walked out of the yellow gas wall. Yang Ziger, Qinglong, and the others had been waiting for a while. The 3,000 soldiers stood at attention. Wenru, let's begin, Yang Zigu said impatiently. Mr. Monroe looked around. The fog seemed to have faded a lot. He could even vaguely see a huge full moon in the sky. The moon is full. We can begin. Qinglong, send the signal, Mr. Monroe said seriously. Yes, Qinglong replied. 2 green balls of light suddenly appeared in Qinglong's palms. They shot out along the yellow gas wall. Whoosh! The balls of light disappeared in the blink of an eye. They sent the signal to the powerful fighters around the gas wall. There were 8 directions on the gas wall. At King Yimu's position, there were a dozen powerful fighters around King Yimu. They all looked up at the moon in the sky. It's about to begin? Everyone was looking forward to it. Lu Gang. King Yimu looked at his disciple. Yes, the moon is full. It's about to begin. Others might not know, but I've received some information about this feng shui formation. Do you know why I took you in? King Yimu asked in a deep voice. Maybe it's because I'm... Lu Gang didn't know how to answer. Your constitution? If you had a good constitution, you wouldn't have to take me as your master. You're already in the essence state. King Yimu said disdainfully. Yes. Lu Gang's expression darkened. There's a record in the book. The best way to get what's inside is to break through and obtain the will of the Alcade Star. Then you can control the formation. You've reached the peak of the strength state. This is your chance. You must get the will of the Alcade Star. Don't disappoint me again. King Yimu said in a deep voice. Yes. Don't worry, master. I'll do my best. Lu Gang said seriously. Good. King Yimu nodded in satisfaction. In another direction of the yellow gas wall, 12 men in black stood there. They were all wrapped in black robes. 2 of them were the leaders. The moon is full, it's about to begin. The leader said. You are a feng shui master. Naturally, we will listen to you here. Another person said indifferently. I didn't think that people from the Dazhao Holy Land would also come in. They also have feng shui masters. The feng shui master said in a deep voice. It's that half-baked Ding Wugu, right? How can he compare to you? You are... The man stopped halfway through his sentence. In this area, no one dares to compare with me in terms of feng shui. However, the Dugu Sword Emperor is truly patient. He actually chased me all the way here. The feng shui master said. He can't find you. That person said. I hope so. However, Shinku and Kuroha, aren't you worried at all? The feng shui master suddenly laughed. What am I worried about? Shinku and Kuroha asked in a deep voice. That's Yin Chuan. You must know that you were the vanguard when the Lord forced Yin Tao and his wife to their deaths. As a son, Yin Chuan will definitely see you as a great enemy once he grows up. The feng shui master said with a faint smile. He's just a kid who's still wet behind the ears. What's there to be afraid of? If it wasn't for the Lord's great cause, I could kill him with a flip of my hand. Shinku and Kuroha said in a deep voice. According to the reports, this Yin Chuan has quite the style of Yin Tao. Give him a few years and he might really become someone. The feng shui master said. We don't have that much time. Shinku and Kuroha said in a deep voice. Whoosh! Just as the two were talking, a green light suddenly shot across the sky. It was Qinglong's signal. Chapter 120. The Dugu Sword Emperor's purple sword soared into the sky, heading straight for the 12 black-clothed men. As the long sword was dragged out, the surrounding swords hummed in worship. Oh no, he's discovered me. Jiaohu said. Stop him, quick. Shinku and Kuroha was also anxious. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 black-clothed men rushed over. They drew their swords and slashed at the Dugu Sword Emperor. Clowns, how dare you stop me? The Dugu Sword Emperor said arrogantly. As he swung his long sword, it was as if thousands of swords had merged into one and slashed at one of the black-clothed men. Whoosh! The sound of the sword slicing through the air was ear-piercing. Boom! The black-clothed man's long sword was broken by the Dugu Sword Emperor, and he was sent flying. Defeated in one strike? In the distance, Qinglong's expression turned serious. The Dugu Sword Emperor turned around, and his long sword suddenly transformed into 100 zhang long sword energy, slashing at the other black-clothed man. The sword was like a ray of light, instantly cutting off the black-clothed man's arm. Ah! The black-clothed man screamed in pain. The 2 black-clothed men were defeated in the blink of an eye. The Dugu Sword Emperor's eyes became even more arrogant. Poisoner, I've said 10 years ago that I will definitely cut off your head. You won't be able to escape. The Dugu Sword Emperor shouted. Dugu Sword Emperor, why do you have to force me? I'll give you everything I got from this great array. How about it? The poisoner Jiaohu said. My Dugu clan only needs to cultivate a metal sword. Although the treasure is tempting, the hatred is greater than the heavens. It wasn't easy to find you, how can I let you go? The Dugu Sword Emperor said coldly. He brandished his long sword and charged at the poisoner again. Bastard! The poisoner was furious. Stop him, stop him! The poisoner Jiaohu said. Another 4 men in black rushed over. Who below the immortal realm can stop me? The Dugu Sword Emperor attacked again. Poisoner, don't ruin this. Shinku and Kuroha said anxiously. Normally, Shinku and Kuroha would have had the time to deal with the Dugu Sword Emperor. Where would he find the time? Poisoner's expression sank. Shinku and Kuroha. I'll lure the Dugu Sword Emperor away. Continue to do as I said. With that, Poisoner suddenly soared into the sky. Swish! Where do you think you're going? The Dugu Sword Emperor shouted as he shook off the 4 black-clothed men and charged forward. The 4 men in black also chased after him. In the blink of an eye, only 7 of the 12 black-clothed men remained. The golden dragon formed by the draconic vein energy recovered after losing the control of the feng shui master. It was no longer activated. Shinku and Kuroha felt helpless, but he still led the remaining 6 men into the sky above the world-suppressing stone. While a group of experts charged up, another group of experts charged down at the Myriad Mysteries demonic lotus. What a treasure! What a treasure! The cultivator at the front excitedly charged into the black fog and tried to grab the Myriad Mysteries demonic lotus. However, as soon as he entered, he screamed miserably. Arr! His screams were extremely shrill, and many people stopped in their tracks. The cultivator at the front was surrounded by black fog. In the blink of an eye, his flesh and blood were rapidly melting. The black fog seemed to be melting his flesh and blood. In the blink of an eye, the cultivator became a skeleton. The myriad mysteries demonic lotus absorbed his flesh and blood. In the blink of an eye, the myriad mysteries demonic lotus devoured him. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a skeleton? The greedy cultivators in the surroundings retreated in fear. Only 2 people with high cultivation bases charged in confidently. R. Just like before, he turned into a skeleton in the blink of an eye. The myriad mysteries demonic lotus devoured his flesh and blood. How is this a treasure? It's a disaster. Someone exclaimed. Chapter 121. Back off. Back off. No one dared to take another step forward. What a powerful myriad wonders demonic lotus. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. High up in the sky, Mr. Monroe had also arrived at the top of the stone of suppression. Begin. Mr. Monroe shouted at Huoguang. Okay. Huoguang shouted. Boom. The aura of the perfected strength realm erupted. Mr. Monroe placed his palm on Huoguang's back to help Huoguang trigger the heavenly tribulation. Buzz. Suddenly, a small cloud with a radius of 3 feet suddenly covered Huoguang's head. It's coming. Mr. Monroe quickly retreated. Huoguang stood on the boat and looked up at the black cloud. Boom! The black cloud exploded. A silver lightning bolt as thick as an arm shot down from the sky. Huoguang's eyes lit up as he formed a sword seal with both hands. Break! Huoguang faced the lightning bolt with his body. Boom! The lightning bolt exploded on Huoguang's body. Silver light shot out in all directions. Huoguang's hair was disheveled, and some of it was even burned instantly. Tribulation. Many of the confused experts in the surroundings exclaimed in surprise. Oh no! King Ye's expression changed. Begin! King Yimu yelled. He placed his palm on Lu Gang's back to help him break through. Buzz! A black cloud similar to Huoguang's appeared above Lu Gang's head. The flying sword floated above his head and faced the lightning bolt. Boom! A silver lightning bolt shot down and collided with the flying sword. Boom! Countless lightning bolts flashed. Huoguang and Lu Gang were fighting to transcend their tribulations. What are they doing? Why are they trying to transcend their tribulations at this time? Are they crazy? A lot of questioning voices came from all around. People did not understand why Huoguang and Lu Gang were going through their tribulations. However, with 2 God State experts guarding the formation, it was obviously not that simple. The first heavenly tribulation has a total of 9 heavenly thunders. Prince Yan's seal art is indeed unique, to actually be able to transcend tribulation with the fleshy body by relying on this. Qinglong praised. The heavenly tribulation is a tribulation of the heavens, but it is also a gift from the heavens. How can it be wasted on external objects? Naturally, it is best to use it to temper the body. Only in this way can we lay the most solid foundation for the cultivation of the essence realm. Yin Chuan nodded. Boom! Boom! Flashes of lightning overflowed from Huoguang's body. Huoguang's hair was charred black, and his body was red from the explosions. Every time the heavenly lightning struck, Huoguang's body would tremble violently, and he would suffer inhuman pain. Even so, Huoguang still believed in Yin Chuan. He did not use any weapons to resist the heavenly lightning, and only used his body to withstand it. The 4th heavenly lightning. Qinglong counted for Huoguang. Buzz! Just as the 4th heavenly lightning struck, a green light pierced through the tribulation cloud and enveloped Huoguang. It was several times brighter than the surrounding starlight. The green light reached the sky and connected to the distant star, the Alcade. Great! Qinglong said excitedly. Buzz! On the other side, Lu Gang was also enveloped in starlight and connected to the Alcade. Great! In the sky, King Wild was also overjoyed. Obviously, both Lu Gang and Huoguang had the possibility of inheriting the will of the Alcade. King Wild gave Mr. Monroe a provocative look. However, Mr. Wenrua turned a blind eye and waited for Huoguang quietly. What are they doing? Is that the will of the constellation? How can 2 mortals inherit the will of the constellation? How can this be? They are just mortals. Noises could be heard all around. Gradually, people began to realize that something was wrong. Some of the smarter ones seemed to have guessed something. Chapter 122. Prince Yan. The experts from all directions are staring at Huguang with unfriendly expressions. Should we go over now? In case someone destroys it? Azure Dragon asked. No need. Smart people won't destroy them. They might even help them. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. As soon as Yin Chuan finished speaking, someone in the sky pounced on Huguang. However, halfway through, he was beaten back by an unknown expert. No one is allowed to touch them. The expert shouted. Oh really? White Tiger was surprised. Why do they want to protect Huguang? Rosefinch was puzzled. Now no one can touch the Myriad Wonders demonic lotus. If Huguang can, those smart people will be happy to see it happen. Because if they can't get the Myriad Wonders demonic lotus now, they can take it from Huguang. Mo-Yushi explained. I see. White Tiger nodded. Open. Another shout came from the sky. It was from the remaining 7 men in black. The one who shouted was Shinkuan Kuroha. Shinkuan Kuroha's aura suddenly burst out and rushed into the sky. Rumble. In the sky, a black cloud that was 100 times bigger and 100 times taller than Huguang's tribulation cloud appeared. The black cloud rolled and a doomsday aura was emitted. In the rolling black cloud, lightning flashed, and it was filled with endless destructive power. Someone is undergoing tribulation again? What kind of tribulation is this? 4 heavenly lightning tribulations, 49 heavenly tribulations? The surrounding experts stared at the sky. 49 heavenly tribulations? Spirit returning to void? Mo-Yushi's expression changed. It's that man in black. He also wants to steal the Alcade's will? Qinglong pointed at Shinkuan Kuroha, who was wrapped in a black robe. The 6 experts protected Shinkuan Kuroha. Shinkuan Kuroha triggered the 49 heavenly tribulations. Buzz! Another green light rushed from the starry sky into the tribulation clouds of the 4-9 heavenly tribulation. As the lightning flashed, it suddenly enveloped Shinkuan Kuroha below. This time, the starlight pillar was at least 10 times thicker than Huguang's. Ha 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 ha! Shinkuan Kuroha laughed. This tribulation hasn't even started. But the Alcade's will is already so attractive. How can Huguang compete with him? Qinglong said anxiously. Don't worry. That feng shui master was forced to leave. With me here, the will of the Alcade star will definitely belong to Huguang. Yen Chuan laughed. Huh. Mo-Yushi looked at Yen Chuan in confusion, but when she saw the determination in Yen Chuan's eyes, she unconsciously chose to believe him. Come on. Heavenly lightning. Shinkuan Kuroha shouted to the sky. Boom! 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 Following Shinkuan Kuroha's shout, 100 heavenly lightning bolts suddenly struck down from the tribulation clouds. The 100 lightning bolts were extremely dazzling. Like a waterfall, they instantly lit up the entire 4 directions formation. Boom! The heavenly lightning struck Shinkuan Kuroha. Shinkuan Kuroha's body seemed to be bathed in lightning shining brightly. It was like the sun and the moon. Compared to Shinkuan Kuroha, Huguang and Lu Gang's lightning bolts were too weak. The starlight around Shinkuan Kuroha grew brighter and brighter. Prince Yan and the will of the Alcade star are almost there. What should we do now? Qinglong asked anxiously. Yen Chuan turned to look at the 3,000 silver armors. Crossbows at the ready. Yen Chuan shouted. Yes. The entire army quickly drew their bows. Aim at the largest black cloud and shoot. Yen Chuan shouted. Yes. Boom. More than 2,000 arrows were shot up. These ordinary arrows? Are they useful? White Tiger asked in disbelief. Lightning rod. Have you heard of it? Yen Chuan smiled. Huh. White Tiger was stunned. My arrow rain is now a lightning rod. It will disperse the heavenly lightning and help him pass the tribulation. Yen Chuan said confidently. Chapter 123. My arrow rain is now a lightning rod. It will disperse his heavenly lightning and help him pass the tribulation. Yen Chuan said confidently. More than 2,000 arrows soared into the sky, but they didn't hit anyone. Many people didn't know what was going on and only looked at them curiously. Even Shinku and Kuroha did not care about the 2,000 arrows. Boom! More than 2,000 arrows successfully pierced through the clouds and mist, straight up into the sky. They were getting closer and closer to the 4 and 9 tribulation clouds. The tip of the arrow suddenly trembled slightly, as if it had felt a huge magnetic field. Crackle! A strange electric current appeared at the tip. More than 2,000 arrows rained down, and every arrow was the same. And what caused the electromagnetic phenomenon of the arrowhead was the 4-9 tribulation clouds. Not good. Shinku and Kuroha's expression changed drastically. By the time he reached out to stop her, it was already too late. Boom! Within the 4-9 tribulation clouds, a large amount of lightning was suddenly attracted by the arrow rain. The lightning was very thin, but it was divided into more than 2,000 strands. Boom! 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 Bolts of lightning blasted towards the rain of arrows, causing them to explode. The rain of arrows diverted the heavenly tribulation. Although it was only a drop in the bucket, this drop in the bucket caused Shinku and Kuroha to reveal a look of despair. Very little of the lightning was split, but the will of the stars connected to the tribulation cloud was split into more than 2,000 equal parts in an instant. The starlight that enveloped Shinku and Kuroha was suddenly reduced to 1,000th of its original size. In the blink of an eye, the huge advantage they had was gone. No! Shinku and Kuroha roared in grief and indignation. Boom! More than 2,000 arrows exploded, but it didn't have much effect on the heavenly tribulation. However, because the starlight was diverted, there was only 1,000th of the original amount left. The arrows exploded, and the starlight was all retracted. The amount of astral power that the 4-9's tribulation clouds had attracted was less than 1% of Huaguang's. The thin beam of starlight showed Shinku and Kuroha's defeat. Rumble! Shinku and Kuroha was filled with grief and indignation. Bah! While he was lamenting in his heart, his hat was also blown off by the heavenly thunder, revealing Shinku and Kuroha's gloomy face. Shinku and Kuroha looked in the direction of Yan Chuan, while blocking the second wave of heavenly thunder. A bunch of ordinary dogs? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Shinku and Kuroha roared. Old bastard, hey you. A loud shout suddenly came from afar. Yan Chuan looked over and saw Zhu Jiansheng running towards him with an angry expression. Mou, she frowned. Junior brother Yan Chuan, it's him, Shinku and Kuroha. He was one of the people who forced your parents to their deaths. Zhu Jiansheng quickly shot over. What? Lu Jin exclaimed. He raised his head and stared at the sky. Zhu Jiansheng landed in front of Yan Chuan with his sword. Junior brother Yan Chuan, I'll follow you just in case. Zhu Jiansheng said sincerely. Zhu Jiansheng saw Shinku and Kuroha. He was here to protect Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan nodded slightly. At the same time, he looked at Shinku and Kuroha in the sky again. A murderous look flashed across his eyes. Prince Yan, do you want us to? Qing Long asked. No, I want to take revenge with my own hands. Besides, I haven't figured out what's going on here. Yan Chuan shook his head. Boom! Each wave of heavenly thunder was stronger than the previous one. Shinku and Kuroha was no longer in the mood to be angry with the 3,000 silver armors. Instead, he focused on resisting the heavenly thunder. Yan Chuan took a deep look at Shinku and Kuroha again, then turned to Huaguang. Shinku and Kuroha's heavenly thunder was fierce. Huaguang and Lu Gang's heavenly thunder were still in order. Chapter 124. Boom! Huaguang looked like he was about to be cooked. His whole body was red from the lightning. This is the 8th lightning. Huaguang still has one more, but the will of the stars is still lingering between Huaguang and that person. Prince Yan. Qinglong frowned and asked, the will of the Alcade? It must be Huaguang's. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yan Chuan raised his head and looked at the starry sky. He immediately saw the Alcade star. Following the Alcade, Yan Chuan quickly found the other brightest star. The North Star, also known as the North Star, was the ruler of numbers and the star of emperors. Staring at the North Star, Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. It was as if he had a connection with the North Star. Buzz! The North Star flashed slightly. A ray of light shot towards the Alcade. Of course, no one could see this except for the host of the star. It was too faint and too far away. In his previous life, Yin Chuan's will had merged with the will of the North Star. In this life, his soul was still in his previous life, so naturally, his will could also connect with the North Star. The North Star was the ruler of numbers, so it naturally commanded the Alcade. Although the effect on the Alcade was limited, it was still possible to tilt the balance slightly when it came to choosing one. Boom! The last bolt of heavenly lightning blasted towards Huguang. At the same time, all the stars in the surroundings suddenly gathered towards Huguang. A ray of white light shot down from the Alcade and went straight towards Huguang's head. No, how can this be? King Yi exclaimed. Boom! Huguang blocked the last lightning bolt. The tribulation clouds dispersed. The bright stars gathered around Huguang and enveloped Huguang in a pillar that reached the sky. Huguang's clothes were mostly torn, but the aura around him was surging. Buzz! Around Huguang, the starlight suddenly condensed into the illusory image of an enormous armored soldier. In the illusory image, the armored soldier glared. His killing intent surged out in all directions. He held a long spear in his hand, and as he waved it, it emitted a bloody stench. Army destroyer will good! Qinglong shouted excitedly. For a moment, Huguang seemed to have become the focus of everyone's attention. It was not only because of the tribulation, but also because of the will of the stars. It was also the first time for many people to see it. Domineering aura, murderous aura, broken aura, invincible aura. A starlight phantom showed the tyrannical power of the star will. It shouldn't be like this, it shouldn't be like this. King Wild was extremely furious. After transcending the tribulation, Lu Gang should have roared to the sky in excitement. But at this moment, Lu Gang did not dare to make a sound, because he had messed up his master's matter again. Who? Huguang opened his eyes, and the starlight around him suddenly converged into his body. The starlight pillar also suddenly disappeared. On the other side, Shinkuan Kuroha, who was in the middle of transcending the tribulation, looked at Huguang with a gloomy face. He looked at the guy who had gotten a great deal. Bastard! Shinkuan Kuroha said angrily. Boom! Lightning flashed, and Shinkuan Kuroha could only focus on the tribulation in the sky again. Huguang inherited the will of the army destroyer star, and gently raised his hand. Boom! The 8 golden dragons formed by the draconic energy suddenly raised their heads and looked at Huguang together, as if they were attracted by Huguang. Good! Mr. Monroe's face lit up. But the joy only lasted for a moment, and Mr. Monroe's face suddenly changed. Quick! Remove the control. Mr. Monroe shouted. Huh! Huguang was slightly surprised and immediately stopped controlling the 8 golden dragons. Mr. Monroe? Huguang looked at Mr. Monroe in confusion. Mr. Monroe was staring at the Stone of World Suppression, or more accurately at Master Immortal Damiao, who was on top of the Stone of World Suppression. Mr. Monroe's abnormality attracted the attention of all the experts around. Many people turned their heads to look. Yen Chuan was also brought up into the sky by Mo Yushi, and looked at Master Immortal Damiao on top of the Stone of World Suppression. Master Immortal Damiao slowly opened his eyes. He's awake. He's alive? Oh no, it's Master Immortal Damiao. Shocked expressions could be heard all around. Master Immortal Damiao was awake. Still sitting cross-legged, Master Immortal Damiao looked up at the sky. The Big Dipper 9 stars alignment? Master Immortal Damiao looked up at the sky and sighed bitterly. When Rua greets Master Immortal Damiao, Mr. Monroe said respectfully. My greets Master Immortal Damiao. King Mai also said respectfully. Greetings came from all around. Master Immortal Damiao slowly stood up with his hands clasped behind his back and looked around. Then, he looked at Huguang and smiled bitterly. Don't you know that the myriad wonders demonic lotus is evil beyond the heavens? Master Immortal Damiao sighed. Master Immortal Damiao, the feng shui formation has been broken. We can no longer protect the myriad wonders demonic lotus. Please help us. Mr. Monroe said respectfully. Master Immortal Damiao stared at Mr. Monroe. Master Immortal Damiao shook his head. My mission is to protect the myriad wonders demonic lotus. As long as I'm here, no one can touch it. Don't waste time talking to him. Let's attack together. If we drag this out, more and more experts will come. King Mai suddenly shouted. As he spoke, King Mai raised his hand and attacked Master Immortal Damiao. A purple palm print shot toward Master Immortal Damiao. Master Immortal Damiao's eyes widened. He countered with a palm print. Boom! The void trembled. King Mai's palm print dissipated. Attack! Attack! Shouts came from all around as they flew toward Master Immortal Damiao. Since they couldn't get the Myriad Wonders demonic lotus, they had to get the world suppressing stone first. Humph! Master Immortal Damiao snorted. Whoosh! Master Immortal Damiao's body flickered. And 8 identical Master Immortal Damiao appeared around him. The 8 Master Immortal Damiao faced the 20 Immortal State experts flying toward them from all directions. Rumble! Shockwaves spread out in all directions. Go down! Mr. Monroe controlled the boat and rushed down with Huguang. Where do you think you're going? One of Master Immortal Damiao raised his hand and attacked. A golden skeleton flew toward Mr. Monroe. A brush appeared in Mr. Monroe's hand, and he waved it at the golden skeleton. Buzz! A white light formed by the awe-inspiring righteous energy shot toward the skeleton. Boom! The white light and the golden skeleton collided with each other. They exploded. Go to Yin Chuan. Mr. Monroe waved the boat and it shot downward. Mr. Monroe held the brush and blocked Master Immortal Damiao's path. Master Immortal Damiao, I'm sorry. Mr. Monroe shouted. As he spoke, the brush in his hand moved quickly and drew a mountain in the blink of an eye. Boom! The mountain pressed down on Master Immortal Damiao. Humph! Master Immortal Damiao formed an incantation gesture, and a crack appeared in the void. Countless hellfire soared into the sky and rushed toward Mr. Wenru. The battle in the sky was about to start. Huguang also arrived at the bottom of the mountain. Half of the overlords were watching the battle in the sky for the world-suppressing stone. The other half was watching Huguang, ready to fight for the Myriad Wonders demonic lotus. Chapter 125. Lord! Huguang returned and greeted respectfully. Rosefinch, Xuanwu, stay behind and protect my 3,000 soldiers, Yin Chuan said to the two. Yes, the two replied. Zhujiansheng, I'll have to trouble you to stay behind and help me look after these subordinates. Yin Chuan looked at Zhujiansheng. All right, Zhujiansheng agreed. Yin Chuan owes you a favor. Yin Chuan nodded. Haha, I didn't plan to do anything when I came in. Zhujiansheng laughed. Lu Jin, give me that painting. Yin Chuan stretched out his hand. Yes. Lu Jin immediately handed over the spatial painting. The rest of you, let's go. Yin Chuan said. Mo Yushi nodded. Huguang, channel the power of the dragon veins into our bodies and enter the area of evil energy. Yin Chuan ordered. Yes. Huguang replied. Buzz. The image of the Alcade appeared around Huguang. Suddenly, the 8 golden dragons began to twist and turn. Bastard! Master Damiao's angry roar came from the sky. Lord, your subordinate can only control 4 golden dragons. Master Damiao has already taken the other 4. Huguang frowned. Enough! Let's go! Roar! 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 The 4 golden dragons suddenly left the world-suppressing stone and rushed down. The dragon heads overlapped and covered Yin Chuan, Mo Yushi, Qinglong, White Tiger, Yang Zigu, and Huguang. 4 dragon bodies and 1 dragon head. Dragon Qi gathered at one point, protecting the 6 of them. The 6 of them quickly ran towards the center. At this moment, nearly half of the experts were staring at him. As long as the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus was suppressed, everyone would fight for it. There were also some people who set their sights on the 3,000 soldiers, but Rosefinch, Xuanwu, and Zhujiansheng were standing guard, so they couldn't make a move for the time being. The dragon energy shrouded the 6 of them as the black qi from the outside corroded the dragon energy ferociously. The golden dragon head trembled violently. Will the dragon qi outside be broken? Yang Zigu said with some fear. It's possible, so we have to be quick. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Then hurry up, hurry up. Yang Zigu said fearfully. Everyone anxiously approached the center. The closer they got to the center, the more the dragon head shook, as if it would collapse at any moment. Everyone was nervous. The surrounding experts also clenched their fists. They were waiting for Yan Chuan and his team's harvest. It didn't take long for them to arrive. When they got closer, they could see everything in more detail. The 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus emitted an extremely evil light. It made people feel like they would be mesmerized by it. It was as if it could give people unlimited power. It was as if they could become invincible as long as they obtained the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. Mo Yuxi, Yang Zigu, Qinglong, White Tiger, and Huguang were all breathing rapidly. Yan Chuan was very calm. He wasn't disturbed at all. In fact, Yan Chuan wasn't looking at the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus, but at the dark red round platform supporting the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. The round platform wasn't big, only 3 meters wide. However, Yan Chuan was moved by this round platform. Iron jade essence? How extravagant! Good stuff! Yan Chuan exclaimed inwardly. Others might not be able to tell, but Yan Chuan knew how precious this round platform was. The 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus was under the influence of the feng shui array. If there was no hard object underneath, the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus could just burrow into the ground. The iron jade essence carried both the feng shui array and the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. Although the iron jade essence's spirituality wasn't as good as the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus, it was definitely not inferior in quality. Chapter 126. But at this moment, everyone's attention was on the myriad wonders demonic lotus. No one was paying attention to the iron jade essence. Lady Mo, prepare to take the myriad wonders demonic lotus. Yan Chuan woke Mo Yuxi up. Mo Yuxi immediately woke up. She nodded and took out the 8 treasures divine box. She opened the box and prepared to take the myriad wonders demonic lotus. With me here, no one can take it. Suddenly, another immortal Master Damiao appeared at the mouth of the dragon and blocked Yan Chuan's path. Not good. Qinglong and White Tiger immediately blocked Yan Chuan and Mo Yuxi. Boom! Qinglong and White Tiger each pushed out a palm and collided with Master Damiao's. 2 immortal realm cultivators? You're not enough. Master Damiao said coldly. Lord, Master Damiao is disrupting the energy of the dragon veins. I can't control it. Huguang said anxiously. If you can't control it, we're finished. You have to control it. Yang Zigu shouted. His eyes were filled with fear. This was a desperate situation. Once the dragon qi dissipated, the black qi would corrode them into bones. Bastard! Mo Yuxi also wanted to attack Master Damiao. Lady Mo. Yan Chuan stopped Mo Yuxi. Mo Yuxi anxiously turned around. There's not enough time. You have to trust me. Create an essence clone and let me control it. Yan Chuan stared at Mo Yuxi. What? Mo Yuxi was surprised. Yes. Yan Chuan nodded affirmatively. The essence clone was oneself. No one would turn themselves into a puppet for others to control. In the past, if anyone dared to say this to her, Mo Yuxi would definitely kill them. However, at this moment, he saw Yan Chuan's resolute gaze. That gaze was like the one in his dream a few months ago. Mo Yuxi's heart inexplicably trembled. All right. Mo Yuxi didn't know why, but she agreed. Yan Chuan tapped Mo Yuxi's forehead with his finger. Mo Yuxi's face turned slightly red, but she didn't struggle. She closed her eyes and a large amount of white essence gushed out from her pores. It was still Mo Yuxi's form. However, the eyes of Mo Yuxi's avatar were the eyes of Yan Chuan, fierce and domineering. The essence chi clone looked at Qinglong and White Tiger, who were fighting with Damiao Immortal. His eyes narrowed as he took a step forward and appeared in front of the 3. Heavenly cycle. In the palm of the essence chi doppelganger, countless tiny stars appeared, orbiting in different orbits. If one looked closely, they would see that Mo Yuxi's palm seemed to be holding the entire universe. The small stars were countless stars. Rumble. He pushed his palm towards Master Damiao Immortal. Master Damiao Immortal's expression changed. He pushed away Qinglong and White Tiger and went towards Mo Yuxi. Bam! The universe in Mo Yuxi's palm seemed to expand and enveloped Master Damiao Immortal. Countless stars revolved around Master Damiao Immortal. Even someone as strong as Master Damiao seemed to be completely restrained by the power of the stars. He couldn't move at all. What technique is this? Master Damiao Immortal exclaimed. Bam! Master Damiao Immortal was sent flying. He hit the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. The moment the dragon head appeared, the surrounding black gas rushed towards Master Damiao Immortal. Bastard! Master Damiao Immortal yelled as he was devoured by the black gas and absorbed by the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. He pushed Master Damiao Immortal back with one palm? Qinglong and White Tiger's eyes almost popped out. Master Damiao Immortal has many avatars. Even if his strength has decreased a lot, he is still a peak stage immortal state warrior. But Saintess? White Tiger looked over in disbelief. Chapter 127. The essence clone entered Mo Yushi's body in the blink of an eye. Yin Chuan also removed his finger from Mo Yushi's forehead. Mo Yushi slowly opened her eyes and blushed. At the same time, her gaze towards Yin Chuan was filled with a trace of tenderness. Quickly retrieve the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. Yin Chuan said gently. Mo Yushi replied. The 8 treasures god box covered the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. Boom! The lid was slammed shut. The black gas in the surroundings suddenly lost its source and slowly dissipated. Grabbing the 8 treasures god box, Mo Yushi's eyes were filled with excitement. It wasn't just Mo Yushi. At this moment, as long as one wasn't fighting in the sky, their eyes were all focused on Mo Yushi's 8 treasures god box. 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus, 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. Yingzigu excitedly reached out to grab it. However, Yin Chuan opened his painting and covered the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus with the iron jade essence. Whoosh! The iron jade essence was placed into the painting. Yin Chuan quickly kept the painting. At this moment, everyone was staring at the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. Naturally, no one noticed Yin Chuan's actions. Why can't I keep it? Mo Yushi's expression changed. Saintess, what's wrong? Qinglong immediately asked. Yushi, let me see. Yangzigu reached out to grab it. Mo Yushi looked at Yangzigu strangely and actually let go of the box. Good. Yangzigu grabbed the 8 treasures god box excitedly. What's wrong? Yin Chuan looked towards Mo Yushi. The 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus is too intelligent. I can't store it in my storage space. Mo Yushi frowned. So intelligent? Then wouldn't we have to bring the box back? Yin Chuan said worriedly. Mo Yushi nodded. Fine, do as I said. Yin Chuan frowned. All right. Mo Yushi replied. Yangzigu, we've got it. Let's go. Mo Yushi said to Yangzigu. Good. It's just a pity that this thing can't be stored in the storage space. Yangzigu said regretfully. Go. Mo Yushi, Yangzigu, Qinglong and the White Tiger soared into the sky, rushing towards the outside of the array. Where do you think you're going? Hand over the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. Stop. Suddenly, a large number of experts surrounded them to fight for the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. Just as they were in the air, Mo Yushi and the others were surrounded by 20 immortal state warriors, and dozens of Qi realm warriors were waiting for them. In the blink of an eye, they had nowhere to run. Yangzigu, protect the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. I, Qinglong and the White Tiger will do our best to protect you. Mo Yushi shouted. Okay. Yangzigu stuttered. Xing! 20 immortal state warriors and dozens of Qi state warriors pulled out their weapons and stared at Yang Zhizhou with bloodshot eyes. Their murderous intent surged toward him. This. Yangzigu looked at the scene in shock. Yushi, you should take it. Take it. Yangzigu said fearfully. Although Yangzigu wanted the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus, it was too dangerous. The dozens of immortal state experts were only targeting him. No matter how powerful the 3 immortal state experts were, they couldn't protect him. Yangzigu wanted to spread the news of the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus as soon as possible. Okay. Mo Yushi smiled cunningly. At the same time, she looked at Yin Chuan gratefully. This was because Yin Chuan had already predicted this scene a few days ago. As expected, Yang Ziga didn't dare to keep the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus for himself. She had no one to blame but herself for giving it back. Little girl, you don't deserve the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. Hand it over. One of the immortal state warriors said coldly. The crowd was getting closer and closer. At this moment, Mo Yushi's heart was unusually calm. She was waiting for Yan Chuan's next move. Yan Chuan looked up at the sky and said to Huguang, "It's time. Huguang, use your dragon chi to destroy this array." Yes. Chapter 128. Dragon Chi Explode. Huguang shouted. Boom! The 4 golden dragon chi controlled by Huguang suddenly exploded. The explosion shook the surroundings. The 4 dragons exploded and turned into countless fragments. The 4 dragons were the amalgamation of the Earth's dragon veins. The explosion of the 4 dragons caused the Earth to shake. Huge trenches appeared one after another. Mountains and rivers collapsed, and rivers flowed in reverse. The entire space of the formation had undergone earth-shaking changes. Ah! Be careful. Not good. The sound of Jiaohu came from all directions. Where Yan Chuan's army was, the ground was also shaking uncontrollably. The 3,000 soldiers swayed and found it difficult to stand firm. Ha! A huge earth trench appeared under the feet of the 3,000 soldiers. Rosefinch opened his eyes wide. Boom! Vermilion bird and black tortoise quickly attacked the mountainous region beside them to fill up the trench. Large amounts of mountain rocks shot over from all directions. Zhu Jiansheng wielded his sword and blocked wave after wave of mountain rocks for the 3,000 soldiers. Although the 3,000 soldiers swayed, they did not suffer any serious injuries in front of the 3 experts. Boom! Ha! A huge sound came from the sky. It was as if the sky was being torn apart. A huge crack appeared. The array is broken. Yan Chuan looked at the sky with satisfaction. The moment the 4 dragons exploded, almost all the experts stopped and prepared for any accidents. The golden dragon exploded, the array collapsed and the earth shook. Dust, dragon chi, and fog turned the interior of the array turbid, greatly limiting one's vision. Little girl, hand over the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. The godly realm expert quickly recovered. He once again approached Mo Yushi. You want it? Come and take it. Mo Yushi laughed. That person rushed forward. Qinglong seal. White tiger seal. Boom! The 2 of them attacked at the same time and repelled the God Realm expert. Let's go together. Whoever gets it will get it. That person shouted. All right. Everyone press forward. Yang Zigu had a worried look on his face. Qinglong and White Tiger were on standby. Screech! A crane's cry pierced through the sky. The surroundings were extremely turbid. The battle did not stop and the rumbling did not stop. Not many people paid attention to this crane cry. Only a few people saw a white crane swoop down from outside the formation. He went straight into the turbid formation. Screech! Little here, I'm here. Emoyushi called out. Screech! The red-crowned crane swooped down excitedly and arrived in front of the group of experts in the blink of an eye. Not good, quick, attack together. An expert exclaimed. Xing! Die! Stay! 7 or 8 experts attacked at the same time. The swords, sabers, and treasures in their hands all struck towards Emoyushi. Just as Emoyushi was about to be buried in the group attack, a white light flashed past. Whoosh! Emoyushi disappeared. Where did he go? Someone exclaimed. Above. Another person shouted. Everyone looked up and saw Emoyushi standing on the red-crowned crane and breaking through the clouds. Everyone will meet again. Emoyushi laughed. Bastard, stop right there. Stop. Leave the 10,000 wonders bewitching lotus. The 20 God Realm experts almost went crazy. The meat in their mouths flew away just like that? Who could accept that? Chapter 129. Chase! Dozens of experts soared into the sky and chased after the crane. However, when the experts flew out of the array and into the sky, Mizuriyushi and the crane had already become a small dot in the sky. Even if the deity realm experts could soar through the sky, How could they be faster than the crane that specialized in flight? The crane flapped its wings and left all the deity realm experts behind. Ah, bastard! Roar! Above the broken array, angry roars could be heard. They were venting their endless frustrations. On the horizon, Yushi hugged the box containing the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus. She turned her head and looked at the array in the distance that was filled with smoke and dust. Her expression was one of pride and concern. Screech! Screech! The crane cried out excitedly. "Okay, I know. Little crane, you have done the most this time." Yushi patted the crane's head lovingly. Screech! The crane was proud. "This time I really have to thank him. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have thought of sending you a message in the array. You wouldn't have received my signal, and you wouldn't have been able to cooperate with me when breaking the array," Yushi said with a smile. Screech! Screech! Him! That's him! Prince Yen! Yushi said with a slightly red face. Screech! This time, the snatching of the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus was actually his plan. "I finally got it. I finally got the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus," Yushi said happily. Screech! We are not waiting for Qinglong and the others. He said that the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus is definitely not ordinary. The 8 treasure divine box might not be able to seal it for too long. He wants me to return to the sacred grounds first and hand the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus to Mohina Dojin. Wait, let's go to his bamboo house first. I will leave a message for Qinglong and the others, Yushi said after some thought. Screech! The crane flapped its wings and flew towards Yanchuan's bamboo house. The formation was broken. Draconic qi wreaked havoc, and the inside of the formation was extremely turbid. Master Immortal Damiao was fighting alone. Suddenly his body stopped moving and regrouped into one. Master Immortal Damiao had fought against half of the experts by himself, so no one dared to underestimate him. Standing at the center of the world-suppressing stone, Immortal Master Damiao looked up at the sky. "Ha ha ha ha, heaven's will. This is the will of the heavens," Immortal Master Damiao said with a sorrowful expression. "We've already lost the myriad wonders demonic lotus. Don't be so stubborn, Immortal Master Damiao," King Yimu advised. Master Immortal Damiao suddenly turned to look at King Yimu. His eyes were cold as ice, and then he swept his gaze over the crowd. "My mission has come to an end. The formation has been broken, and I will be destroyed. However, everyone here remember this. In the future, the calamity of the world will be your calamity. You are the ones who made the world live in fire and water." Immortal Master Damiao shouted. You're just trying to scare us," another expert shouted. At this point, the experts who had been fighting for the myriad profundity demonic lotus had also surrounded Master Immortal Damiao. Master Immortal Damiao looked at the crowd with hatred and waved his hand. "Explode!" Master Immortal Damiao shouted. Hong! The remaining 4 golden dragons suddenly exploded. Rumble! The explosion was even more intense. The entire feng shui formation was shattered, and the ground shook. It was as if the apocalypse had arrived. The formation was completely broken, and Master Immortal Damiao's figure slowly faded away. However, even though he was about to be destroyed, his eyes were still fixed on everyone. On the other side, Chapter 130. After Yushi escaped, Qinglong and White Tiger landed with an unwilling Yang Zigu. "Prince Yin, let's go," Qinglong shouted. "Okay." Yanchuan nodded. "Guang, now that the formation is broken, your control over the dragon aura should be getting weaker and weaker, right?" Yanchuan asked. "Yes, after the explosion it's less than 1/100th, and it's getting weaker and weaker." Guang nodded. "Alright, it's the final moment. Control as much as you can. Try your best to control the dragon aura and infuse it into your army," Yanchuan ordered. "Yes," Guang replied. Rumble! A large amount of dragon aura fragments suddenly rushed towards the 3,000 silver armors. Roar! 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 The fragments seemed to have turned into miniature golden dragons. There were tens of thousands of them, and they rushed towards the 3,000 silver armors. "Open your mouth and swallow," Yanchuan shouted at the 3,000 silver armors. Yes, the 3,000 silver armors replied. Roar! They opened their mouths and shot out golden dragons. The 3,000 silver armors opened their mouths and swallowed the golden dragons. In an instant, the 3,000 silver armors glowed with golden light. Dragon aura entering the body? Haha! Zhu Jiansheng's eyes lit up. Zhu Jiansheng reached out and took out his wine gourd. He opened the gourd and started sucking in the dragon aura rushing towards him. Qinglong, White Tiger, Rosefinch, Xuanwu, and Yang Zigu didn't seem to care about the dragon aura. Alright, time to go. Yang Zigu was full of resentment. After half a day, the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus was still taken by Mo Yushi. How depressing. Rumble. The battle above for the world suppressing stone was getting more intense. Let's go. Yin Chuan nodded. Qinglong and White Tiger led the way. Escorting Yin Chuan's group, they quickly approached the 3,000 soldiers. Lord! The 3,000 soldiers shouted excitedly. Junior brother Yin Chuan, you're awesome. Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. We're leaving. What about you? Yin Chuan looked at Zhu Jiansheng. Let's go, let's go. Although I hate that Xingkuan Kuroha, I really can't beat him now. His 4-in-9 heavenly tribulation is about to end. Moreover, if I stayed, would I be able to compete with dozens of immortal state warriors for the world-suppressing stone? That's courting death. I'm already very satisfied with this dragon chi. Let's go, let's go. Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. Let's go. Yin Chuan nodded. Rosefinch, Xuanwu lead the way. Qinglong shouted. Okay. The two of them answered. Rumble. Amidst the shaking earth and rolling dust, Yin Chuan's group quickly walked out of the broken formation. Rumble. Rumble. The 3,000 soldiers were weak, but they were escorted by a group of powerhouses. Although the journey was dangerous, not many people were injured. 2 hours later, everyone was outside the formation. Outside the formation, the surrounding mountains and rivers had collapsed. Apparently, they were affected by the formation. Behind them, dust rose into the sky. Streams of light shot out from the formation. The powerhouses were fighting non-stop. The world-suppressing stone was now a must-have item. Let's go to my place and wait for Mr. Monroe. Maybe Miss Mo is still there. Yin Chuan said. Yeah. Yang Zigu's eyes lit up. A glimmer of hope flashed in his eyes. When they came, the silver-armored soldiers were at LV4 or 5 of the power realm. When they left, they were at least at LV7. They even swallowed dragon chi, so their cultivation would definitely improve. Their speed was much faster. 5 days later, everyone returned to the bamboo house. Yushi. Yang Zigu looked around. Lord, there are words left by Miss Mo at the door of your master bedroom. Lu Jin immediately went forward. Oh. Everyone quickly walked to the door of Yin Chuan's master bedroom. There was a piece of paper on the door. There was a line of beautiful words written on it. Qinglong, White Tiger, Rosefinch, Xuanwu. I've returned to the Dazhao sacred ground. Stay here and protect Prince Yan. Wait for my news. It's the saint's words. Qinglong took the paper and said with certainty. Chapter 131. Qinglong, White Tiger, Rosefinch, Xuanwu. I have returned to the Dazhao Holy Land. You stay here and protect Prince Yan. Wait for my news. It's the saint's handwriting. Qinglong took the paper and confirmed. Huh. Yin Chuan frowned slightly. There were signs that the door of the bamboo house had been opened. Wait for me outside. Yin Chuan said. With that, Yin Chuan walked into the bamboo house alone. On the bamboo table, there was another letter. There was no signature, but Yin Chuan knew that Mo Yushi must have left it for him. Yin Chuan opened the letter and read it. I came out this time with 300 high-grade spirit stones. I put them in the box under your bed. I don't mean anything else. You must accept them. You brought 3,000 subordinates with you. Your burden will be heavier in the future. Take these as snacks for them. Don't refuse. See you again. Looking at the letter, Yin Chuan did not know why, but he suddenly smiled. Yin Chuan gently put away the letter and came out again. Yushi really left? Yang Zigu also came back, looking depressed. The saint has gone back. Qinglong nodded. On the other side, Zhu Jiansheng sat on a tree, drinking wine from his gourd with a face full of enjoyment. Whoosh! A white light suddenly shot from the distant sky. Boom! A strong wind blew and dust rose. Mr. Monroe had returned. Mr. Monroe's clothes were slightly tattered, but he still looked calm. Wenrua, how is it? Yang Zigu asked immediately. The stone of suppression was broken. I was lucky to have a piece. Mr. Monroe smiled with satisfaction. The stone of suppression was a top-grade material for refining fairy equipment. Anyone who had it would be satisfied. Oh, how is Shinku Kuroha? Him? His will of the stars was snatched by Huguang. He had just reached the emptiness realm and was in a weak state. Because he had reached the emptiness realm, he became the target of everyone. Although he managed to snatch a large fragment of the suppressing world stone, he also paid a heavy price. He will have to cultivate in seclusion for a few years. Mr. Monroe laughed. Yin Chuan nodded. Where is Saintess Yushi? Mr. Monroe asked. Her. Let's go back. Yang Ziga said gloomily. That's right. It's better to head back early in case anything happens. Mr. Monroe nodded. Yeah, since that's the case, let's go back too. Yang Zigu said helplessly. Okay. Mr. Monroe nodded. Qinglong, let's go. Mr. Monroe looked at Qinglong and the others. Qinglong was about to say something, but Yin Chuan interrupted him. Go, let's go back with them. Yin Chuan looked at the four of them and said. But Prince Yen. Qinglong was confused. One had to know that Mo Yushi had personally left a letter for the four of them to protect Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan looked at Qinglong and smiled. You don't have to worry about me for now. She just got the infinite wonder demon lotus. She will definitely cause a sensation when she goes back. You guys should go back early to help Miss Mo. But how are we going to explain this to her when we go back? Qinglong was in a dilemma. Just tell her that I said so. She won't make things difficult for you guys. Yin Chuan said firmly. Looking at Yin Chuan, Qinglong and the others nodded gratefully. The four of them could see that Yin Chuan was sincerely doing this for the Saintess. Yes. The four of them bowed respectfully to Yin Chuan. Mr. Monroe and Yang Zigu looked at this scene with slight confusion, but they didn't ask anything in the end. Chapter 132. Mr. Monroe took out a small boat, and the four of them stepped onto it. They soared into the sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Junior brother Yen, you're really something. Zhu Jiansheng suddenly jumped down from the tree. After everyone left, Zhu Jiansheng could finally catch up with Yin Chuan. Thank you, Zhu Jiansheng. Let's wait until we reach the day sect. Yin Chuan smiled. Oh, that's fine too. Zhu Jiansheng nodded and did not mind. Thank you again for protecting our army in the Feng Shui formation. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Haha, I also received a batch of dragon energy because of that. Moreover, I owe your father a debt of gratitude. How can I just sit back and do nothing? Zhu Jiansheng smiled. Yin Chuan will remember that. Yin Chuan nodded. When you turn 18, I'll apply to come and pick you up? Zhu Jiansheng smiled. That's great. But I won't be here by then. You can go to Yanjing. Yin Chuan said. Okay. Is there anything else you need my help with? Zhu Jiansheng nodded. Yes, there's something I need to trouble you with. Ha ha ha, I knew it. Zhu Jiansheng laughed. Huguang, go and bring the box under my bed. Yin Chuan said. Yes. Huguang replied. Soon Huguang carried a big box to Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan flipped his hand and opened it, revealing 300 crystals that were surrounded by mist. High-grade spiritual stones? That's not right. Your father didn't give you anything. How did you get them? Zhu Jiansheng said in surprise. Do my things have to come from my father? Yin Chuan laughed. Aha, I was wrong. Yin Chuan, why did you take these spiritual stones? Zhu Jiansheng laughed. I haven't entered the cultivation world yet. I'll have to trouble you to use the 300 high-grade spiritual stones to buy some things for me. Yin Chuan laughed. Oh, 3,000 heaven-shocking bows, 100,000 sun-shooting arrows, and 3,000 sky-splitting spears. Yin Chuan said. Ah, so many. Zhu Jiansheng said. Heaven-shocking bow, shooting sun arrows, and sky-piercing spear were extremely famous, but in the cultivation world they were only basic weapons. Of course, in the mortal world, they were divine weapons. What? Not enough spiritual stones? Yin Chuan asked. It's enough, but you're spending too much. 3,000? 100,000? An ordinary shop wouldn't be able to gather all of them. Zhu Jiansheng laughed bitterly. That's why I'm troubling you. Yin Chuan laughed. All right, forget it. I'll run a few more places. Zhu Jiansheng nodded. Thank you. Yin Chuan said solemnly. It's fine. It's not like I'm spending my money anyway. Zhu Jiansheng said straightforwardly. Spend as much as you want. Yin Chuan laughed. Since that's the case, I won't delay any longer. Let's go. Zhu Jiansheng picked up a box of spiritual stones and bid farewell. Yin Chuan nodded. After sending off Zhu Jiansheng, Yin Chuan looked at Huguang and Lu Jin. Did you hear what I said just now? Yin Chuan looked at the two of them. Yes, thank you, Lord. If the soldiers knew, they would definitely go crazy with joy. Huguang laughed. Heaven-shocking bow, sun-shooting arrows, sky-splitting spears. It was obviously a cultivator's magic treasure. 3,000, 100,000, 3,000? It was obvious that it was for the First Legion. A few days ago, everyone swallowed a strand of dragon qi. Digest it well and use it to break through again. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yes, Lord, don't worry. As soon as those little bastards came back, they went to sit cross-legged and cultivate. I don't have to say that they're all very sneaky. Huguang laughed. That's good. Yin Chuan nodded. Chapter 133. I may need to go into seclusion for a while. I'll give you 3 months to bring back 3,000 Hanshua horses. Yin Chuan ordered. Hanshua horses? Only the Zhao army's camp nearby has them. Moreover, there shouldn't be more than 4,000 of them in the entire camp. Lu Jin said after thinking for a while. Yes, Lord. Don't worry. I'll get them for you. Huguang promised. With regards to whatever Zhao family army, Huguang could already completely ignore them. This arrogance was exactly what Yin Chuan wanted. Lu Jin. Yin Chuan looked at Lu Jin. Yes. After the dragon qi has been digested, I believe that everyone's cultivation will have reached LV8 of the power realm and above. The silver armor won't have any effect on them anymore. Use some funds to buy new uniforms. Yin Chuan said. Uniforms? What uniforms? Lu Jin was confused. Good clothes for good horses. Find the best tailors to make the most gorgeous robes. We'll be returning to the capital soon. Of course, we'll have good clothes and good horses. Yin Chuan's soldiers are the best in all aspects. Yin Chuan said proudly. Yes. Lu Jin said respectfully. Okay. For the time being, you'll stay in the camp. Don't come near the bamboo house for the time being. Yin Chuan said. Yes. The two answered. The two left. White fog surrounded the bamboo house. Yin Chuan had activated the formation again. Back in his room, Yin Chuan took out the scroll. In the scroll, Yin Chuan took out the iron jade essence. Bang! As soon as the iron jade essence was taken out, it emitted a lot of black qi and rushed in all directions. The inside of the formation was immediately dyed black. Hiss 10,000 wonders demonic lotus, what a heavy evil aura. To think that even the essence of iron jade would be tainted with such a heavy evil aura. Yin Chuan exclaimed. He looked at the iron jade essence that was wreaking havoc with evil energy. Yin Chuan frowned. Iron jade essence, a weapon of utmost purity. Since it has been tainted with such a heavy evil aura, it must have undergone some internal changes. Should I use it to refine weapons? Yin Chuan walked around the iron jade essence. Few evil aura? So what if it was evil energy? There's no sword that I can't handle. Yin Chuan glared. After calming down, Yin Chuan immediately took out the brush, Dream Immortal. Yin Chuan dipped the Dream Immortal in ink and began to write on the iron jade essence. Fire! 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 As the word fire was written one after another, Yin Chuan's eyes became more and more resolute. With the increase in his cultivation, Yin Chuan was gradually able to withstand the cleansing of the origin qi of heaven and earth. The cleansing of the origin qi was beneficial to cultivation. Similarly, with the increase in the quality of the brush, the origin qi would no longer destroy the brush. Instead, it would nourish the brush again and again. Fire! 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 The surroundings of the words were completely red. Yin Chuan had written a total of 108 fire words. Bam! Outside of the iron jade essence, it was as if there was a raging fire that was fiercely burning the iron jade essence. He sat cross-legged facing the iron jade essence. Yin Chuan's eyes widened. The golden dragon of will erupted once again. Facing the raging flames of the iron jade essence, it began to swallow and spit out Yin Chuan's will flames. Rumble! The iron jade essence was constantly being refined by Yin Chuan. A month later, Zhu Jiansheng returned once again, accompanied by a few servants. He brought a large number of military equipment. Heaven-shocking bow, sun-shooting arrow, sky-piercing spear. Senior, the Lord is in seclusion. He told us not to disturb him. Why don't you wait a little longer? Lu Jin said politely. Haha, there's no need. Just send the things over. Oh right, I'll give them to you together with 20 high-grade spirit stones. In a few months we'll meet in Beijing. Zhu Jiansheng said casually. Alright, thank you, Senior. Lu Jin said politely. After sending off Zhu Jiansheng, a group of soldiers surrounded him. Sir, these are immortal treasures? The soldier's eyes lit up with excitement. Chapter 134. After sending off Zhu Jiansheng, a group of soldiers surrounded him. Sir, these are immortal treasures? The eyes of the soldiers lit up as they spoke. The heaven-shocking bow was made of purple gold, and there were countless exquisite runes on it. The sun-shooting arrow was as sharp as a divine weapon. The heaven-breaking spear felt warm in his hand, as if it had become one with his body. Sir, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. A young general said anxiously. All right. Hu Guang was also extremely happy. Everyone was in the barracks, and when Zhu Jiansheng brought over the treasures, everyone excitedly surrounded them. All of them stared at the sharp weapons. Hu Guang said, all right, I'll do it, huh? He grabbed the heaven-shocking bow and pulled it hard. Buzz buzz. The bowstring was only a third of the way open. Pull it, pull it. The general said excitedly. However, the soldier's face was flushed red, and he couldn't pull it open no matter what. Bang! His hand loosened, and the bowstring trembled violently. Ha ha ha, Li San, a woman's strength is greater than her strength. She can't even pull the bow properly. Everyone laughed. I have tried my best. Li San's face turned red. Let me try. Hu Guang shouted. Hu Guang took the heaven-shocking bow and pulled it fiercely. Open! Hu Guang's eyes widened, the veins on his hands bulged, and the bow was not even fully pulled. Open for me! Hu Guang shouted once again. Rumble! The heaven-shocking bow was barely pulled into a full moon. Hiss! So powerful! Oh! All the soldiers were shocked. Hu Guang was currently at the essence realm with such strength, he could only pull it into a full moon? Good bow, help me pass the sun-shooting arrow, I'll try. Hu Guang said excitedly. All right. Li San immediately placed the sun-shooting arrow on Hu Guang. Sir, shoot there, the giant wudong tree halfway up the mountain. A young general shouted. Isn't that too far? It's at least 4 or 5 li. Li San said with a frown. Right there. Hu Guang said with certainty. Hu Guang narrowed his eyes at the giant parasol tree 4 to 5 li away. After taking aim, he loosened his grip. Swish! When the shooting sun arrow appeared, the runes on the arrow suddenly emitted a golden light. It instantly shot into the distance like a golden beam of light. Boom! A loud sound came from afar. All the soldiers were petrified. That's a huge tree. It's at least as thick as 10 people's waists. How did it break with just one arrow? That's 4 miles away. Oh my God, is this an arrow? The soldiers were incomparably shocked. Go and retrieve the arrow. Hu Guang said excitedly. Yes. The 3 young generals quickly shot into the distance. It didn't take long for them to reach halfway up the mountain. However, after the 3 young generals moved the tree away, they couldn't find the arrow. What are Li San and the others doing? They're digging for rocks? Aren't they looking for arrows? What are they dawdling for? After a long while, the 3 of them returned. Li San, what are you doing? Someone asked anxiously. Sir, it's a divine arrow. It broke a big tree and even shot into a big rock. We had to dig for a long time before we could find it. Li San said excitedly. What? Such a strong force. It shot into the big rock? Everyone turned their heads and looked at the heaven-shocking bow with red eyes. Ha ha, good bow. Good bow. Huguang said excitedly. Sir Hehe, do you want to play with your brothers? A young general rubbed his palms and laughed. Chapter 135. Get out of here. Even if I give it to you now, you won't be able to use it. In a month's time, whoever reaches LV9 of the power realm will come to me for a weapon. Huguang scolded jokingly. Yes. Yes. Everyone shouted excitedly. Damn it. Practice hard. The Lord has given us a task. We'll do it in a month's time. If anyone dares to screw up, I'll skin him alive. Huguang shouted. Sir, don't worry. For this treasure, even if I don't eat or sleep, I'll make it in a month's time. Moreover, isn't the Lord's task easy? We can get it now. A young soldier said with a smile. Get out of here. Go and practice first. Huguang said with a smile. Okay. The soldiers immediately went to practice in full swing. In the bamboo house, Yin Chuan used his will, calligraphy, and mind to refine the iron jade essence. He had been refining it for a few months. When he was hungry, he would eat the demonic beast meat that Lu Jin had left behind. He had been constantly using his primordial qi to cleanse it. After 3 months, Yin Chuan had lost a lot of weight and looked a little haggard. However, the golden dragons did not stop refining the iron jade essence. The evil aura of the infinite wonders demonic lotus was everywhere. Boom! A loud sound came from Yin Chuan's body. LV9 of the power realm? That's good. The cleansing of the heavens primordial qi should have reached LV9. Yin Chuan said casually. In front of Yin Chuan, a ball of flame floated in the air. The golden dragon was circling the flame. Within the flame was the iron jade essence. However, its form had changed drastically. A long sword floated in the flame. The sword was 4 feet 9 inches long, 5 inches wide and 3 inches thick. It was faintly black in color. Condense. Puff. Yin Chuan forced out a mouthful of blood and spat it on the sword. Buzz buzz. The long sword vibrated slightly. Following the vibration, the countless bamboos in the bamboo forest outside the bamboo house trembled violently. It was as if they were cheering for the birth of a new sword. You were refined from the essence of iron jade, the supreme jade sword. My second sword, the Son of Heaven, was given the name Jade Emperor. Jade Emperor's sword. Yin Chuan shouted. Buzz. The words Jade Emperor slowly appeared on the sword. Swish. The surrounding black gas, evil aura, flames and blood were all absorbed by the Jade Emperor's sword. The golden dragon was exhausted and transferred into Yin Chuan's body. The Jade Emperor's sword slowly descended from the sky. It fell into the hands of Yin Chuan. He stroked the Jade King's sword. The Jade King's sword trembled as if it was happy about its birth. Now you're only made of excellent materials, but you're still far from the name of a divine sword. However, with my nourishment, you'll definitely be famous throughout the world. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, Buzz. The Jade Emperor's sword trembled again and gradually calmed down. Yin Chuan placed the Jade Emperor's sword on his knees and took out a demon beast's heart. After swallowing it, he closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. A few months of sword practice. His mind was greatly exhausted. Another 20 days later. Bang! Yin Chuan opened the door of the bamboo house. He slowly walked out of the array and walked towards the barracks outside. Hiss! The sound of horses neighing could be heard everywhere. On the drill ground, many horses were galloping. Lord! Lu Jin stood nearby and immediately saw Yin Chuan. Lord! The soldiers also saw Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan carried a long sword on his back and stepped out. Everyone looked at him with respect. Huguang, who was instructing a few subordinates, also quickly ran over. Fergana horses? Yin Chuan looked at the batches of tall horses and said, Yes, Lord. There are a total of 305 horses, and all of them are the strongest. Huguang confirmed. All right, Yin Chuan said in satisfaction. Lord, is this set of clothes for the soldiers all right? Lu Jin asked. At this moment, the 3,000 soldiers were no longer wearing silver armor. Silver armor was no longer of any use to them at their cultivation level. Everyone was wearing a set of gorgeous purple-red brocade robes paired with a black cloak. They looked extremely bright and majestic. Not bad. Yin Chuan nodded his head in satisfaction. Also, heaven-shocking bow, sun-shooting arrows, and sky-splitting spear have all arrived 2.5 months ago. I have already distributed them to the soldiers. Hu Guang said excitedly. There's still an extra 20 spirit stones. Lu Jin was about to take out the spirit stones. I'll leave it with you, Yin Chuan said in satisfaction. Yes, Lu Jin replied. Lord, just yesterday the last soldier officially reached LV9 of the power realm. Although our first legion is small in number, it is strong enough to fight against a country. Hu Guang said excitedly. Fine clothes, strong horses, immortal bows and divine spears. The first legion is finally formed. Yin Chuan said in satisfaction. All thanks to the Lord. Long live the Lord. Hu Guang said respectfully. Long live the Lord. The 3,000 soldiers shouted in unison. At this moment, Yin Emperor was completely ignored by the 3,000 soldiers. At this moment, if Yin Chuan wanted to kill Yin Emperor, the 3,000 soldiers would not hesitate. Lord, the representatives of the 4 nations should have arrived in Yanjin as I told you last time. They are gathering to discuss the 5 nations' affairs and to compete for territory. Lu Jin said seriously. Good. How can we miss the competition between the 5 nations? Rest for a night and have a good meal. Follow me to Yanjin tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Let's see how my Yin state is doing. Yin Chuan shouted. Yes, the 3,000 soldiers replied. The next day before the sun rose. Giddy up! Giddy up! 3,000 Hanchua horses galloped along the way, stirring up thick clouds of dust. They were galloping toward Yanjin. Yin Chuan took the lead and was extremely arrogant. The eyes of the 3,000 soldiers glinted. The galloping horses were like a sharp sword, cutting through the dawn fog and shooting into the distance. 20 miles away from the galloping horses, 50,000 soldiers were heading toward them. On the commander's flag there was a big Zhao character. The commander-in-chief had a gloomy face. Are you sure? The commander said with a gloomy face. I can't be wrong. The one who stole the Hanchua horses must be Hu Guang. I would recognize him even if he turned into ashes. 3,000 Hanchua horses. A young general said angrily. Humph. How dare he steal my horses? Today I will bring 50,000 soldiers and destroy his protector camp. I will kill that Yin Chuan as well. Commander Zhao Kui said with a vicious look in his eyes. But didn't the patriarch forbid? The young general said worriedly. I will take responsibility for everything. Just kill them. Don't let a single one of them go. When the time comes, say that it was done by bandits. Who dares to tell on us? Zhao Kui said coldly. Yes, my lord, you are wise. The young general agreed. Report. A scout rode toward them from afar. What's the matter? Zhao Kui asked. 3,000 cavalrymen are running toward us from 10 miles away. The scout immediately reported. Cavalrymen? 3,000? It's Hu Guang. Ha ha. You don't want to take the path to heaven, but you want to barge into hell? Get into formation. Prepare to kill the enemy. Zhao Kui said with a glare. Roar. The 50,000 soldiers replied. Chapter 136. Giddy up. Yin Chuan took the lead. Dust and smoke rose into the air as his horse galloped. The 3,000 soldiers followed closely behind without stopping for a moment. The Hanchua horses were astonishingly fast. In a few hours they were already 100 miles away. Yin Chuan's horse galloped over a small hill. With his sharp eyes, he immediately saw the billowing dust in the distance. Stop! Yin Chuan shouted. Shoo! Shoo! The 3,000 soldiers immediately pulled on the reins. The horses neighed and stopped in their tracks. The 3,000 soldiers were all at least LV9 of the power realm. Naturally, they suppressed the Fergana horses into obedience. Therefore, the horses were extremely well behaved and did not make any noise. On the hill, Yin Chuan squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. On his left and right were Huguang and Lu Jin. Lord, is there an ambush ahead? Lu Jin said in a deep voice. That old bastard Zhao Kuo, the younger brother of Patriarch Zhao. I've requisitioned his Hanshua horses. How dare he lead 50,000 elite soldiers here? Huguang said coldly. Huguang, go and talk to him. Tell him to get out of the way. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Huguang replied. Giddy up. Huguang rode his horse and galloped straight ahead. Zhao Kuo saw the lone horse approaching from afar. Stop! Zhao Kuo shouted. The 50,000 soldiers stopped immediately. They got into formation and faced the lone horse that was galloping from afar. Sir, look at that hill. The leader should be Yin Chuan. One of the soldiers pointed into the distance. It's Huguang. He's coming alone. How dare he? Where's their silver armor? Why are they wearing such luxurious robes? The soldiers around Zhao Kuo discussed among themselves. Zhao Kuo stared at Huguang, who was galloping towards him. Shoo! Huguang stopped in front of the army. Zhao Kuo, the Lord wants to pass through here, get out of the way. Huguang shouted. Humph! Huguang, you injured my subordinates and stole my Hanshua horses. How dare you come to see me before I even look for you? Zhao Kuo said coldly. Robber? Bah! Are the Fergana horses yours, Zhao Kuo? The imperial family of the Great Yin dynasty has been cultivating these resources for generations. Due to the military situation in various regions, some of them were allocated to your military camp. If the Lord wants to use them, he can take them at any time. How did they become yours, Zhao Kuo's? Huguang shouted. Humph! Since it's in my camp, it's mine. Zhao Kuo glared at Zhang Xian. Your military camp does not belong to Great Yin? Are you not under the jurisdiction of the Lord and the Yin Emperor? Huguang shouted. Did you just make your debut? My Zhao army only belongs to the Zhao family. No one else belongs to us. Zhao Kuo shouted. How dare you? Huguang glared at Zhao Kuo and shouted. Shoo! Shoo! As soon as he shouted, the horses of Zhao Kuo's army immediately became restless. Some of the soldiers looked at Huguang with a changed expression. Zhao Kuo, do you know how treacherous your words are? Are you trying to rebel on behalf of your Zhao family? Huguang shouted. Rebel? Humph! Today I will kill all of you. None of you will be spared. What bullshit protector camp? What bullshit emperor's equal? All of you will die. Zhao Kuo was enraged. You dare to rebel? Huguang glared at Zhao Kuo, his anger rising. So what if I'm rebelling? If you die, who will know? Who dares to report me? Ha ha ha! Zhao Kuo said arrogantly. Zhao Kuo's insolence had stirred up the courage of the soldiers as well. Ha 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 ha! Chapter 137. Ha ha ha! The soldiers of the Zhao family army shouted in agreement. Just as the Zhao family army was being arrogant, a voice came from afar. All lands under the heavens belong to the king, and all lands belong to the king. Those who rebel against the king shall be executed. The voice was powerful and dignified. Even though it was just one person's voice, it suppressed the mocking laughter of the 50,000 soldiers. The crowd stopped laughing. They looked in the direction of the voice. The one who spoke was the young man on horseback. Yin Chuan. Zhao Kuo looked in disdain. Yin Chuan was holding a longbow in his hand. He pulled the bowstring and aimed it at Zhao Kuo. Ha ha ha, my lord, that Yin Chuan must be crazy. It's at least 2 li from here to his mountain. How can he pull the bowstring and aim it at you? A soldier laughed. Yes, there must be something wrong with his head. My lord, our 50,000 soldiers are making a mountain out of a molehill. The soldiers roared with laughter. For some reason, Zhao Kuo's hair stood on end. He felt a great sense of danger. How can this be? Zhao Kuo looked at the longbow in confusion. The longbow in Yin Chuan's hand was pulled more and more until it was a full moon. Lord, your arm is strong. Huguang praised. The first time Huguang pulled the bow, he only pulled it to a full moon. Quick attack! Zhao Kuo shouted anxiously. Xiu! In the distance, Yin Chuan loosened his fingers. The shooting sun arrow turned into a golden ray of light and shot toward Zhao Kuo. Xiao! It was so fast that it made an ear-piercing sound. Protect the king! Protect the king! Zhao Kuo shouted. Huff! 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 The 15 soldiers quickly formed a human wall in front of Zhao Kuo. Peng! The shooting sun arrow crossed the distance of 2 li and appeared in the middle of the army. Boom! The front of the human wall exploded with a loud bang. The powerful explosive force of the shooting sun arrows instantly blew up the first 3 soldiers and pierced through the 4th soldier. Protect the emperor, protect! Do! Zhao Kuo panicked. Before he could finish his words, the shooting sun arrow nailed into his head. An arrow pierced through. Pala! Zhao Kuo fell off his horse. This scene scared all the surrounding soldiers silly. The commander-in-chief was dead? He died just like that? That was 2 miles away. How could Yan Chuan's arrow shoot so far? Impossible. However, that wasn't the most frightening part. The most frightening part was the fact that the 12 soldiers had all fallen to the ground. A single arrow had pierced through 15 soldiers. How could it kill Zhao Kuo? No, this can't be true. A young general exclaimed in shock. The commander was shot dead, and the army was in an uproar. In the distance, Yan Chuan handed the longbow to Lu Jin. A look of indifference. Kill them all. Avenge the Grand Marshal. A young general shouted. Xiao. Another ray of light shot over. Boom. That young general was blasted apart. It was a soldier behind Yan Chuan. Although he couldn't fully draw the bowstring, he could still shoot from 2 li away. Behind Yan Chuan, 7 or 8 archers drew the bowstrings. The arrow shot toward the army of 50,000. The army of 50,000 and dozens of young generals were stunned. They didn't dare to move. They looked into the distance in shock and fear. Scram to the sides and get out of the way, Hu Guang shouted. Chapter 138. Whoosh! 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 The 50,000 soldiers moved to the side. Now that their commander was dead, no one dared to step forward. Hiya! 3,000 genie soldiers rode toward them from afar. When they got close, Yan Chuan pulled the reins and the horses stopped again. 2 genie soldiers quickly retrieved the shooting sun arrows. Sitting on his tall horse, Yan Chuan glanced at the young soldiers around Zhao Kuo. Zhao Kuo offended his superiors and was executed by me. Go back and tell Lord Zhao that the Yan dynasty still belongs to the Yan dynasty. Yan Chuan said coldly. Yes, yes, the soldiers said in fear. Let's go, Yan Chuan shouted. Hiya! 3,000 genie soldiers rode away on their horses, stirring up a cloud of dust. No one dared to stop them. Looking at the 3,000 genie soldiers leaving, one of the soldiers said, We have 50,000 soldiers. Why? That's a Dharma treasure. Do you want to die? The commander was killed by an arrow. Who would die without an order? Then what should we do? Report to the patriarch, report everything that happened just now to the patriarch. The 3,000 genie soldiers went straight to Yanjin. They met many city guards on the way, but no one dared to stop them after they showed their identities. 8 days later, they finally arrived at Yanjing under the powerful speed of the Fergana horse. Yan Chuan stopped his horse and looked at the city gate. The words Yanjin were carved on the gate. However, the city gate was closed. Who are you? How dare you break into Yanjin? A guard on the gate shouted. Bastard! The emperor is here. Hurry up and greet him. Lu Jin glared at him. Emperor equal to the emperor? The faces of the guards on the city gate tower changed. Lord, the people outside the city said that he is the emperor. The guards bowed to a general who came in a hurry. The emperor? The general's face changed. General Lin, do you recognize me, Hu Guang? Hu Guang asked the general. Hu Guang, aren't you? The general's expression changed. Cut the crap. The emperor is here. Hurry up and open the city gates. You actually closed the gates when you saw us coming. Do you think we're rebels? Hu Guang shouted. General Lin wiped his sweat and said to Yan Chuan, Your humble servant greets the Lord. Has the Five-Nation talk started? Yan Chuan asked indifferently. Yes, in the Imperial City drill ground. General Lin replied immediately. Then hurry up and open the door. Huguang shouted. Lord, please wait for a moment. I will report this to His Majesty. Bastard, how dare you stop the Lord? Huguang glared at him. Huguang, break the door. Let's go in. Yanchuan said in a deep voice. Understood. Huguang replied. Huguang took the lead. The sky splitter spear in his hand suddenly emitted a silver light. Hong! The city gate was blasted open, and the entire city tower shook violently. The soldiers on the city wall were shaken to the point of staggering. Hiya! Yanchuan took the lead and rode his horse into the city. Giddy up! Giddy up! 3,000 members of the embroidered uniform army followed closely behind. How is this possible? General Lin cried out in shock. General Hua? One shot. He broke the city gate with just one spear? 3,000 embroidered army, how tyrannical. Emperor equal to the emperor? The new emperor's equal is still the emperor's equal. Discussions broke out on the city gate tower. Emperor alongside the emperor is back. Emperor alongside the emperor is back. As the 3,000 members of the embroidered uniform army galloped on their horses, the news of the emperor's equal's return spread like a gust of wind across the entire Yanjing. All the major forces in Yanjing that were like a pool of stagnant water suddenly turned upside down. Countless people heard the news and moved. Chapter 139. Yanjing in a luxurious mansion. A man in a luxurious robe passed through the corridors and rushed to a large hall. There were a few servants at the entrance of the hall, and they quickly surrounded him. Master, the person is already waiting in the main hall, but he's extremely arrogant. This lowly one. The leader of the servants reported. Shut up. Don't be rude. The man in the luxurious robe glared. Yes. The servant shivered and immediately stopped talking. Everyone leave. Don't disturb me and the guest. The man in the luxurious robe said. Yes. The servants quickly left. The man in the luxurious robe tidied his clothes and stepped into the hall. A white-clothed woman wearing a white veil and a bamboo hat sat in the hall. Her face couldn't be seen clearly, but her figure was extremely voluptuous. Her breasts and buttocks were extremely feminine. However, she was dressed in simple and elegant white clothes, which made her look both elegant and seductive at the same time. It was very impactful. Although she didn't take off her bamboo hat, her appearance was enough to make countless men hot. Chongqing greets the eldest miss. The man in the luxurious robe didn't have a blasphemous expression, only respect. The woman held a cup of tea in her hand and put it down. Then she gently took off her bamboo hat. When the bamboo hat was taken off, a beautiful face was revealed. Her skin was whiter than snow, her eyebrows were thin like willows, her lips were delicate, her nose was exquisite, and her neck was slender. Coupled with the beauty mark under her left eye, she made people feel an inexplicable desire. However, her clear eyes were like an iceberg, blocking people from 1,000 miles away. This woman didn't say anything, but just her appearance showed the difference between ice and fire. Chongqing, in just a few years, you've already become the Prime Minister of the Yen state? Well done. The woman smiled faintly. This smile was like 100 flowers blooming. Even though Chongqing respected her, he was slightly stunned. Chongqing quickly lowered his head and blushed. He didn't dare to look at the woman. Eldest miss, you're too kind. It's just the mortal world's imperial court. I've been here for a few years already. How can I be mediocre? Chongqing said humbly. Mortal world? Hehe. Father sent the few of you into the mortal world's imperial court to gather all kinds of information about the imperial court. How are you doing? The woman asked. Chongqing naturally wouldn't dare to forget what the headmaster instructed me to do. I've organized all kinds of information about the mortal world into a book so that First Miss can bring it back to the academy and hand it over to the headmaster, Chongqing said solemnly. That's good. The woman nodded in satisfaction. First Miss, will it be of any use to the academy if we enter the imperial court of the mortal world? Chongqing asked in confusion. The woman sighed softly. There are 4 great academies in the world. Although our Julu Academy dominates the entire world, the academy is ultimately just a foil to the other great sections. Our luck is saturated and we can't advance any further. Although no one dares to offend us, we still feel like we're living under someone else's roof. The Grand Assembly was, in fact, a wedding dress for others. Once the world is in chaos, the Academy will be the first to bear the brunt. In order to protect himself, he had no choice but to strengthen himself. Father searched for ancient books all over the world and finally found a few words in an ancient book. The woman said in a deep voice, "An ancient book?" That's right. Although it was just a few words, it gave Father a glimmer of hope. I hope that the few of you can find the hope of the Academy's prosperity in the various imperial courts. The woman said solemnly, "Don't worry, eldest Mississippi. We'll do our best." Chongqing said solemnly, "Well, you've been in the Yin state for the past few days. What do you think of the Yin state?" The woman asked curiously. Chapter 140. Chongqing thought for a while and said, "I don't understand the intricacies of it. The imperial court has its own complexities. Take the Yin state for example. There are all kinds of forces in the open, in the dark and hidden." "Oh, tell me about it." The woman smiled. "The first is the Yin Emperor. He's the leader of the country. The second is the Zhao family. They control 30% of the Yin state's military power. There are even some things that I can't see through. These two parties are the ones with the greatest authority and strength." Chongqing introduced. "What else?" The woman continued. "The third party is an old man waiting to die. Oh, his name is Yifeng. He's the imperial tutor of 3 dynasties. He's very capable, but he's now a shriveled old man. He's 92 years old and not far from death. He's already retired. But this person has disciples and old friends all over the Yin state. His disciples and old friends are in all the major forces. Old friends. Although he doesn't have any power, he's very famous." "Oh? Old man?" "Yes. If he was still in the imperial court, how could I become the prime minister in such a short time? I've checked his information. He's a legend. When he was young, he was just a chess player. His talent was so strong that in 3 years, he defeated all the famous chess players in the Yin state. After that, he entered the imperial court and assisted 3 generations of emperors, doubling the territory of the Yin kingdom. At the age of 70, he resigned and retired. He did not allow his descendants to enter the imperial court and only allowed them to enter the business world. Under his guidance, he became the richest man in the Yin kingdom in just 10 years. Oh? He's very capable. He's very capable. Unfortunately, there's one thing that he can't change." "What?" "Foundation. Yifeng's foundation is extremely poor. Even back then, Yin Tao of Yin country found pills from the cultivation world for him, but they couldn't increase his cultivation. His cultivation speed is as slow as a tortoise's, and his foundation is as rusty as copper. What a pity! What a pity!" The woman nodded. "Of course, there are also some small factions, small clans, and people with small reputations. I won't introduce them. The last person I want to introduce has a very special identity. The great Yin state's king, Yin Chuan." Chongqing said after some thought. "Yin Chuan. That's right. This person was blessed by his father. His father used to be the emperor of the Yin state. Later on, he entered the world of cultivation. Now that he is dead, he inherited the title of nobility. His status is equal to that of the Yin emperor. Unfortunately, he has no power or influence. All he has is the highest status." Chongqing said regretfully, "You've seen this person before?" "No, but it puzzles me. He is 17 years old this year and lives in seclusion in the mountains. However, some time ago, he sent the corpse of the eldest son of the Zhao clan to the Yin emperor. I don't know if it was intentional or not. It's hard to say. There are people you can't see through." Chongqing really doesn't dare to talk nonsense since I haven't seen him before. Chongqing laughed. Ta, 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 ta. Suddenly, the sound of horse hooves came from outside. The sound seemed to come from the entrance of the Prime Minister's residence. "Huh." Chongqing frowned. "What's wrong?" "First, young miss, today is the 5 Nation talk. Horse riding is prohibited in the city. However, this sound seems to be quite a lot. Chongqing said with a frown. 3,005 horses. The woman reported the number. First, young miss has good hearing. Chongqing admires you. Chongqing said with a smile. I'm just a little better at counting. Go and ask. The woman said with a smile. Okay. Chongqing answered. Servants. Chongqing shouted outside. Soon the servant from earlier ran in. The woman put on her bamboo hat at the right time. Chapter 141. What's going on outside? Chongqing asked. Master, the Emperor Equals is back. The Emperor Equals? Yes, one of my family's servants was at the city gate. 3,000 soldiers from the Protector's battalion are all wearing luxurious robes and riding on Fergana horses. Their leader destroyed the city gate with a single thrust of his spear, and 3,000 of them entered the city. Oh, the Emperor Equals? The woman asked curiously. It's the Yin Chuan that I mentioned earlier. He's Yin Tao's son. Chongqing explained. Yin Tao's son? Yin Tao? He was a hero of his generation at the Heavenly Bestowment Conference. What a pity. However, like father like son. Let's go and take a look. The woman smiled. If you're interested, then let's go. Chongqing smiled. Yin Capital, Imperial Palace, Crown Prince Palace. Crown Prince Yen Wudi was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Opposite him, the Dugu Sword Emperor stared at Yen Wudi and carefully supervised Yen Wudi's cultivation. How can you practice swordsmanship when your heart is not calm? The Dugu Sword Emperor said. Yen Wudi slowly opened his eyes and looked at the Dugu Sword Emperor. Master, today is the Five Nations Summit. It's held once every 20 years. I'm worried about my father. You've already stepped into the cultivation world. The mortal world has nothing to do with you anymore. What are you worried about? Moreover, the 3 consecrators who went with you to the Feng Shui formation have all reached the essence state after absorbing the dragon qi. With them around, what are you worried about? The Dugu Sword Emperor said. Master. You're right, Master. Yen Wudi's eyebrows relaxed slightly. That poison master fled to this area to recuperate. I can feel it. After I kill Poison Master, I'll bring you to my Dugu clan. Dugu Jianwang said in a deep voice. Master, who is that poisoner? Yen Wudi asked curiously. A Feng Shui master. At the same time, he is also your master's mortal enemy. The Dugu Sword Emperor glared at him. Death grudge? Yen Wudi nodded. Report. Suddenly, a Jiaohu voice came from outside the hall. Yen Wudi looked at the Dugu Sword Emperor, and the Dugu Sword Emperor nodded. Come in. Yen Wudi shouted. Soon a guard rushed in. Reporting to the Crown Prince, the Emperor's equal has returned to the capital, and he even brought the June Protector camp back with him. He's been rampaging in the capital. The guard reported. Emperor equal to the Emperor? The Dugu Sword Emperor asked in confusion. Master, the Emperor equal to the Emperor is that Uncle Wang. You saw him in the formation last time, Yin Chuan. Yen Wudi explained. Yin Chuan? The Dugu Sword Emperor's expression changed slightly. The last time they met, Yin Chuan had left a deep impression on the Dugu Sword Emperor. Yin Capital, outside the palace at the gate of the drill ground. Shoo! With a pull of the reins, the 3,000 Fergana horses suddenly neighed, and the sound spread in all directions. Yin Chuan's horse stood at the front. Sitting on the tall horse, Yin Chuan looked at the group of armed soldiers in front of him. Who are you? Get down from your horse and surrender. The leader shouted. Are you blind? This is the Emperor equal to the Emperor. Why aren't you paying your respects? Lu Jin's hoarse voice suddenly sounded. The Emperor equal to the Emperor? The faces of the soldiers changed. Lu Jin quickly took out a token. The token was purple and gold, and the words Emperor equal to the Emperor were engraved on it. We pay our respects to the Lord. Everyone immediately bowed. How long has the Five Nation talk been going on? Yin Chuan asked indifferently. It has been 2 days and 2 nights. The leader said truthfully. Who came? Yin Chuan asked. Zhengchu, Korea and Wei. The Crown Prince came in person, and the consecrators of each country and their respective armies. The leader said truthfully. Oh, Zheng's consecrators are also here? Is Lu Gang here? Yin Chuan asked with a smile. They are here. Zheng's people are very arrogant this time. Before the Five-Nation talk, they even injured a few of our brothers. The leader frowned. Arrogant? Ha ha, get out of the way. I want to go in. Yin Chuan laughed. The leader looked at Yin Chuan and thought about it with a frown. In the end, he did not dare to stop him. Yes. Lord Old Slave, go and prepare your seat? Lu Jin asked. Go. Yin Chuan nodded in understanding. 500 men follow me. Lu Jin looked at the embroidered uniform army. Yes. A young general answered. Giddy up. The soldiers split into two groups. Yin Chuan led the 2,500 embroidered uniform army soldiers to the drill ground. Lu Jin led the 500 embroidered uniform army soldiers to the imperial palace. Chapter 142. Yin Capital Drill Ground. The ground was paved with white stones and surrounded by high walls. Inside the walls was a huge drill ground. There were 5 different types of armor on the drill ground. They stood behind the 5 forces. In the north, Yin Emperor sat on the dragon throne in his dragon robe. Beside him stood a group of Yin state officials. In front of him was a large amount of delicious food and wine. However, no one was in the mood to pay attention to the fine wine. Instead, they were anxiously looking at the center of the drill ground. In the center of the drill ground there were 2 powerhouses fighting each other. Red and blue light bloomed from their bodies. The battle was fierce and there was no clear winner. On the east side there was another force. Among them was Zheng's exalted priest Lu Gang. Clearly, this party was Zheng's representative. One of them wore a 4-clawed dragon robe. He was the crown prince of the state of Zheng. However, the crown prince of the state of Zheng did not seem to be the leader of this group. Lu Gang sat next to the crown prince of the state of Zheng. Lu Gang, on the other hand, was talking to a middle-aged man. Third senior brother, I heard that you've reached the Qi state? Lu Gang whispered. That's right. A few months ago, when you and Master went to the Feng Shui array, I reached the Qi state. The Qi state feels different. The middle-aged man said proudly. That's right. Third senior brother is a genius. I've admired you for a long time. If there's anything I don't understand in the future, please enlighten me. Lu Gang said. Ha, we're brothers. That's what I should do. The third senior brother said with satisfaction. I heard that senior brother has 2 great demon pets. One of them is this 3-colored divine bull. It has boundless strength and boundless power. It's several times stronger than my previous demon snake. Lu Gang looked at the giant bull behind him and said, Your demon snake? Hiss. How can it compare to my sacred bull? Although we're both in the Qi state, 10 demon snakes are no match for my sacred bull. The third senior brother said disdainfully, That's right. And I heard that there's another demon pet. It's actually a rare flying demon beast. Even eldest senior brother is endlessly envious. Lu Gang exclaimed. Ha. That's right. Eldest senior apprentice brother's strength is stronger than mine. But in terms of demon pets, I'm indeed endlessly envious every time I see my bat god. Third senior apprentice brother said complacently. Where is bat god? Lu Gang asked. I ordered it to look for food. Don't worry about it. Third senior brother smiled. Third senior brother's demonic beasts can be raised at will. It can be seen that third senior brother's ability to enslave demonic beasts has reached the acme of perfection. No one under master's tutelage can surpass him. Lu Gang continued to flatter. Ha. Third senior brother was elated. As Lu Gang fawned on third senior brother, he looked at the center of the field. Speaking of which, the game between the 5 nations this time is a little different from what I imagined. Third senior brother looked at the battle in the center of the field and said in a deep voice, Oh, why does third senior brother say that? Lu Gang asked doubtfully. I originally wanted to see that little bastard Yin Chuan. Unfortunately, he's not here. Third senior brother said regretfully. Well, maybe he doesn't dare to come. Lu Gang smiled apologetically. Also, didn't you say that the consecrators of each country are all in the Qi state? Why are there so many in the Qi state? Yin state has 3, Korea has 8, Chu state has 7, and Wei state has 8? Third senior brother asked doubtfully. Them? They're the same as me. That day, they were brought into the feng shui formation by the ancestors of each dynasty. These people are also very lucky. When the dragon chi finally erupted, it turned into thousands of small dragon chi. These people may have gotten a share of it, so they're very lucky. Chapter 143. They have all reached the essence state. Lu Gang said after thinking for a while. Heh, so many essence state cultivators. It seems like Yin Emperor is going to have a headache. Third senior brother laughed. With Yin Tao dead, the Yin state is already at the end of its road. It's futile to struggle. Lu Gang glanced at Yin Emperor in disdain. The people of Zheng looked on coldly. The crown princes of Wei, Chu and Han, as well as a group of experts, were seated on the east side, the west side, and the west side respectively. Everyone was staring at the battle in the center of the field. Boom! With a loud sound, the battle stopped abruptly. One person stood proudly in the center of the field, while the other person fell to the ground, covered in blood and unable to continue fighting. Old Zhang. Yin Emperor's expression changed. The two people beside him quickly went forward and helped the injured old Zhang up. The injured person stood up and said with shame, Yin Emperor, I'm useless. It's not your fault. Yin Emperor sighed. Take Consecrator Zhang away to rest. Yin Emperor sighed. Yes. Consecrator Zhang lost. The other person returned to the west side. Yin Emperor 20 cities. I thank Emperor Yin on behalf of my father, and thank you on behalf of Great Chu. The Crown Prince of Chu said with a smile. Yin Emperor looked at the Crown Prince of Chu with a gloomy face. He clenched his fists. Yin Emperor, every 20 years the 5 countries have a game of chess. We don't fight each other on the battlefield. It's a tradition. In the past, there were victories and losses, but this time, Yin State's luck is not good. The Crown Prince of Chu said with a smile. Not good. Not necessarily, it should be good luck. A Crown Prince on the west side laughed. Oh, Crown Prince of Han? Why do you say that? The Crown Prince of Chu was puzzled. Yin State has 212 cities. Losing to us 20 cities per dynasty is only 80 cities. The Yin State still has 132 cities. The Crown Prince of Han said with a smile. Huh. Everyone looked at the Crown Prince of Korea in confusion. The Crown Prince of Korea stared at Yin Emperor and said, Yin Tao is already dead, and the Yin State has already lost the protection of the Immortal sections. How can it be compared to our 4 dynasties? This time we only lost 80 cities. This is the Yin State's great fortune, isn't it? That's right, we only lost 80 cities. Yin Emperor should be glad that we didn't bet too much at the beginning. On the other side, the Crown Prince of Wei Kingdom also agreed. Humph. Yin Emperor was so angry that his face turned green. 80 cities, 80 cities. Almost half of the Yin State had been lost in the past 2 days. Bastard, the Crown Prince of my dynasty has already entered the Celestial Sect. Who said that the Yin State does not have the protection of the Celestial Sect? A consecrator beside the Yin Emperor shouted. Yin State's Crown Prince? Just entered the Immortal Sect? Ha ha ha, Consecrator Wang, don't you know? The people of the Celestial Sect in the cultivation world pursue immortality. They don't care about the affairs of the mortal world, unless they are related by blood. Only then will they take care of their descendants. The Yin State's Crown Prince. Master Z is powerful, but so what? Will he help you to guard the country of Yin? The only thing you can wait for is for the Yin State's Crown Prince to mature. But he is just a mortal. Do you think it is possible for him to become an expert in such a short time? The Crown Prince of Korea said disdainfully. Yin Emperor stared at everyone, clenching his fists tightly. I Yin Chuyu will abide by the rules of the 5 nations for hundreds of years. I will hand over the 80 cities as promised. The 5-nation talk is over. Everyone can leave now. Yin Emperor said with an ugly expression. Leave? Ha ha ha, Yin Emperor, it's over just like that? Lu Gang suddenly interrupted. Lu Gang? What do you mean? Yin Emperor said in a deep voice. Chapter 144. Nothing much. I just wanted to remind you that according to the agreement of the 5 states, if you lose, you can apply for a duel again. You can bet back. Lu Gang laughed. Yes, you can challenge us again. We are always ready. The Chu Crown Prince shouted. That's right. 80 cities. You don't want to bet back? The Crown Prince of Han laughed. I haven't had enough yet. At worst we can bet less. Anyway, your Yin state has a lot of cities. If you lose them in the future, you might as well lose them today. Ha 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 ha. The Crown Prince of Wei laughed. You're going too far. Yin Emperor slapped the dragon throne and scolded. The Yin state army raised their weapons. Humph, Yin Emperor, what are you trying to do? If you dare to attack us, you will be betraying the agreement. Our 4 states will attack your Yin state and completely destroy your Yin state. The Crown Prince of Zheng glared. That's right. If I lose a single hair, I will bury the Yin state with me. The Crown Prince of Chu scolded. Yin Emperor, you can't. The subordinates stopped the angry Yin Emperor. Yin Emperor glared and suppressed the anger in his heart. He slowly sat down again. Ha ha ha, Yin state? The former leader of the 5 states, Yin state? You can't even find someone you can use. Let me tell you. Consecrator Zhang, who lost to us just now, has already joined Chu. The Crown Prince of Chu sneered. What? Yin Emperor's eyes widened. Not far away, Consecrator Zhang, who was just brought down and covered in blood, suddenly stopped and turned his head. Crown Prince Chu, didn't you promise me that you won't say anything? Consecrator Zhang said with an ugly expression. What are you afraid of? Follow me from now on. You are a citizen of Chu. Who dares to touch you? The Crown Prince of Chu said proudly. But say all right. Consecrator Zhang nodded. Old Zhang, you. Yin Emperor stared at Consecrator Zhang in disbelief. Yin Emperor, you're very good to me, but the Yin state's power is gone. I've already reached the Essence Realm and will need to develop further in the future. Prince Chu said that he would introduce me to their old ancestor. I'm sorry. Consecrator Zhang smiled bitterly. Traitor, traitor. Yin Emperor shouted. Consecrator Zhang ignored him and walked towards Crown Prince Chu. His injuries seemed to have healed in the blink of an eye. Clearly the injuries just now were all fake. Ha ha ha, Yin Emperor, do you still want to continue? Is there anyone in your Yin state who can compete with me? The Chu Crown Prince laughed. Your Majesty, I will fight it out with them. Your Majesty, I will fight it out with them. Your Majesty, please give the order. I'll do it. Some of the old officials of the Yin state asked to fight, but these old officials had white eyebrows and hair. How could they have the strength to fight? Yin Emperor closed his eyes and a trace of sadness flashed across his face. Ha 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 ha. The Crown Princes laughed proudly. In the past, the 4 countries were suppressed by the Yin state. Now the tables were turned. Even in the Yin state's home ground, Yin Emperor was suppressed by them. Are you going to compete or not? Yin Emperor, say something. The Crown Prince of Korea said sarcastically. Yes, say something. Ha 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 ha. Today the Yin state was humiliated, but Yin Emperor couldn't do anything. He was very depressed. Some of Great Yan's officers and soldiers even secretly wiped away their tears. The hatred of national humiliation was like the hatred of stealing one's wife. But they couldn't do anything about it. How sad. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. Suddenly, the sound of a large number of horses came from outside the drill ground. Huh. Everyone looked at the gate of the drill ground in confusion. Boom. The gate was slammed open. A large amount of smoke and dust rose. Neigh. Neigh. A series of horse neighs pierced the sky. The smoke and dust dissipated. A large group of embroidered uniform army rode in. Yin Chuan rode in the front and slowly came over. His eyes were shining as he looked at the group. The soldiers followed closely behind. Each of them was full of vigor and battle intent. Who are you? Don't you know where this place is? The Crown Prince of Chu shouted.